When I won my Paralympic medals in 1984, the unemployment rate was more than 7%. Today, it's far less. Yet 80% of people with disabilities, just like me, are still out of work. It's time we stopped focusing on what people can't do and invest in what they can do. People with disabilities are persistent, driven, and capable. It's time to look closer at how we hire. Visit nod.org/lookcloser.
It's 8 o'clock. This check of the time presented by Spectrum One.
Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday, Election Day. I'm Lachlan McLean.
And I'm Amber Smith, here with a look at your Spectrum News in 90. And as he said, it is election night here in Kentucky and across the nation. Hundreds of thousands of Kentuckians have cast their ballots. But despite record early voting numbers, the Secretary of State's office estimates just a 42% voter turnout for the general election.
To celebrate Veterans Day, the National Park Service is offering free admission this Saturday, waiving entrance fees to parks here in the Commonwealth. That includes Mammoth Cave, Big South Fork, Lincoln's Birthplace, and more.
And the University of Kentucky unveiled an updated design for the basketball court at Rupp Arena. It features a new outline of the state under the UK logo at half court. It's expected to be installed next month.
Our stretch of mild weather continues here during the overnight. Temperatures only falling back into the 50s and 60s by morning under a partly to mostly cloudy sky. On Wednesday, we're talking about near record or even record warmth. Highs in the upper 70s to lower 80s all across the Commonwealth. Now, Wednesday night into Thursday, a small chance for a shower as the front rolls through. That'll bring us some cooler weather for Thursday as highs only top out in the 60s for most areas. That's your news in 90.
Live just after 8 Eastern, 7 Central here on Spectrum News One. Thanks for joining us for our continuing coverage of Decision 2023. And the big story, of course, the governor's race we are following, where incumbent Andy Beshear is thus far outperforming how he did in 2019. Just about half the votes have been counted, though, so a lot can still change.
And with half of those votes in, 2 statewide races have now been called here in the Commonwealth. Our Mario Anderson has been at the touchscreen all night watching these results come in, and that's where he joins us now. Hey, Mario, what's the update?
Hey, well, we're tracking those 2 statewide races, the Secretary of State's race, and the incumbent Michael Adams is officially been projected as the winner with 60% of the vote so far, less than 50% in, but the Associated Press has him beating his Democratic challenger, Buddy Wheatley, who was a former state representative in the legislature. So Michael Adams will serve another 4 years in that office as the chief election official, and we're expecting to hear from him here shortly as he takes the stage in Louisville to deliver his victory speech there. And then we're also seeing on our board this evening in the state auditor's race, we'll get that fired up for you here. You can see the results in the race. Allison Ball is actually being projected as the winner of this race. You can see there. And this is actually the very first time that 2 women have been running against each other in a general election for statewide office in Kentucky history. And Allison Ball, who's from Prestonsburg in Floyd County, she's the current state treasurer. Her term wraps up at the end of this year. She will now just move down the hallway and now serve as the state auditor. And Kimberly Reeder is from Moorhead and Rowan County, a tax attorney. And this is her first time ever competing in a statewide race. But Allison Ball will go on again. We'll continue to see more of the vote total as you see it in real time change. It was at 48%. Now it's at 50% of the vote across Kentucky. Again, you can see that this red on our screen represents the counties that Allison Ball has won for this auditor's race. And the blue currently shows where Kimberly Reeder is leading so far. But this will continue to change throughout the number. We'll update you as those final tallies start coming in across the state. But that's what we're seeing so far. Lachlan and Amber, the auditor's race has been called for Allison Ball. And then the Kentucky Secretary of State's race, Michael Adams will continue another 4 years in that position in Frankfort.
All right, Mario, thank you. And again, you can see the results scrolling on the bottom of your screen. About half the votes in that all-important governor's race right now. Andy Beshear has just over 53% of the vote, with Daniel Cameron just over 46%. But again, those numbers sure to change.
And our Mason Brighton has been covering Beshear's campaign tonight at the Democratic Watch Party at Paris Town Hall in Louisville. Hi, Mason.
Hey, good evening, guys. Yeah, just to kind of give you a scene setter, throughout this evening, we've seen this place continue to get more packed and more packed. And as we've seen these results come in, and as it gets closer to seeing all of those votes counted, we're seeing a lot of happy people here, obviously with Beshear leading across the state at the moment. But also seen a lot of elected Democrats here this evening showing their support for the governor and the other down-ballot Democratic races. Senator Karen Berg, Gerald Neal, Daniel Grossberg in the State House of Representatives. Lots of people here really just excited about how things are going for that top Democrat in the state. For Decision 2023, I'm Mason Brighton.
Mason, thank you. And let's go now to a victory speech from Allison Ball, who has won the race for auditor.
First of all, I want to thank all of you. Thank you so much for electing me. Thank you for being a part of this campaign. I've got some important people around me that I want to thank. My wonderful husband, Asa James Swan. You cannot do this. You cannot do this unless you've got a great partner with you. And I've got a super excited little 5-year-old boy named Levi right here. Levi, you want to wave? And my 2-year-old Marigold's not quite sure what she thinks of all this, but I want to thank her too. They've been great troopers this whole time. Mom and Dad, thank you so much for everything that you have done. I have a great team behind me. Jake Cox, you've been a tremendous campaign manager. Thank you so much for everything you've done. And all of Team Ball behind me has been just important. You cannot do this alone. So it has been important to have all these people with me. This was all of us together working. And I'm just so grateful, too, that God has been so faithful this whole campaign. He has provided. He's been there with us. He's made sure we've had good family time in the midst of working very, very hard. And now I am ready to go. I'm ready to be your next state auditor. As I said, as treasurer, I've been a watchdog of taxpayer dollars. I know how to do this job and do it right. And I've had a few things that I've gotten to be a part of. I returned $174 million of unclaimed property while in office. I pushed to get a high school requirement to teach financial literacy as part of your graduation before you can graduate from school in Kentucky. That is now the law of the land. It's something I believe is going to have a generational impact for years to come. And of course, I've been that watchdog of taxpayer dollars. So I'm ready to go, protect against waste, fraud, and abuse, serve you, and do the job the way it's supposed to be done. So God bless you all. Thank you for being here. We're going to get some more wins tonight. Thank you very much.
You were listening to Allison Ball give her acceptance speech for state auditor. She is the current treasurer here in Kentucky, and she talked about her experience in that role and how that might translate into her next role as auditor here in Kentucky.
Yeah, and interestingly, 2015 and 2019, she ran for treasurer and got more votes than any other candidate in the state. I don't know how that'll shake out this year, but she will again move from the treasurer's office to the auditor's office. And a person who's been following the coverage all night long, all year long, really, is Erin Kelly,
we wait for this day all year.
Anchor reporter, and we're seeing the positive results for the Republicans we anticipated, but at the top of the ballot, Andy Beshear outperforming. What have the people you've been talking to saying, and what did they hope to see tonight?
Well, so they've been looking at a lot of specific counties here: Scott, Madison, Oldham, Kenton, Campbell, some of those northern Kentucky counties, Warren County, and we know that just in the results that we're seeing so far that Beshear is doing well in places that were expected, like Lexington and part of Fayette County and Jefferson County as well. But it's still early. We still have a lot of other counties that we need to hear about. We know from talking to Senate President Robert Stivers, a Republican, that they were feeling really good about the down ballot races, that those would be winning by wide margins, but they think that there could be a long night, could be a close night, could be a close vote margin as it relates to the governor's race. As far as the Democrats, I talked to Representative Rachel Roberts from Northern Kentucky. She's the minority whip in the House. She's looking at Campbell, Kenton, and Boone counties, and also looking at split tickets. Who might have voted for Governor Beshear, the Democrat, but then selected Republicans on some of those down ballot races? So where did the ballot split? How many people did that? We've got a lot to look at.
One of the questions. Actually, we have our Spectrum News 1's Jacqueline Powell. She was at that same watch party we just heard from Ball. She's actually covering Cameron's campaign in this race tonight. And Jacqueline, what are you hearing there?
Hey guys, well there's been a lot of excitement here at the GOP watch party, as you just saw in Allison Ball's acceptance speech for state auditor. We've also seen the race called for Michael Adams, Secretary of State. So the mood is pretty high in here. Of course, the biggest race that we're following is A.G. Cameron's, and there is some tension there because, you know, the race has been so close with Governor Beshear, but with Governor Beshear in the lead. A.G. Cameron himself is not in this room. We're told he's watching privately nearby, but he will come in and plans to give his either acceptance or concession speech whenever that election result is called. That is the first time we'll hear from him. We're told he won't be answering media questions, but of course we expect to see more cheering if more Republican races are called in their favor, but we'll probably be waiting a little later to hear those results on the governor's race with it being so close. So we're staying here. We'll continue to keep you updated. For now, live for Decision 2023, I'm Jacqueline Powell.
All right, Jackie, thank you. We appreciate that update on that race. And as we've been talking about the governor's race, right before we tossed to Jackie, you were saying something really interesting to me. Of course, we're seeing that the down ballot went to many of the Republicans. Some of the races haven't been called, but that's the trend that we're seeing even in the ones that haven't at this point. But Beshear is still in the lead over Cameron. So sizably, there are people who split their ticket, voted for Beshear, and then down ballot voted for a Republican. And that's something that they were keeping their eyes on. But what might be factors in which somebody would split? What are some of those motivating factors?
I think one of the questions that people have been having when I've been asking them about what are you looking for, they're really interested in seeing maybe what happened with Western and Eastern Kentucky, where, you know, our state has been through so much during Governor Beshear's first term, and he responded to the deadly tornadoes in Western Kentucky as well as deadly flooding in Eastern Kentucky. It's possible that those areas of the state where we have seen more of a Republican leaning in the electorate there, some people really resonated with him. And also talking to Representative Rachel Roberts, you know, the COVID-19 pandemic. This is a governor that was, you know, basically giving updates almost every day during the pandemic. And she said that, you know, people feel like they know him, that he's a part of their family. So that some of that could have come into play as well. But, you know, we don't know. Also, abortion is a big issue. You know, we've seen so much change in the issue of abortion over the last few years with the reversal of Roe v. Wade, which then led to Kentucky implementing its abortion ban. And that became an issue even within the most recent, you know, one of the most recent ads from Governor Beshear was about a victim of rape who had been raped when she was 12 years old, and basically calling out Attorney General Daniel Cameron for his defense of Kentucky's abortion ban. So that could have been a factor as well. But, you know, we're still have to see how everything plays out, which counties, you know, really switched in his favor, and we're not done yet.
Yeah, and you saw the results tally while Aaron was talking. Just 53% of the expected vote is in now, so way too early to project, although there are some national affiliates who are projecting for Beshear. We're nowhere close to doing that. But let's just project forward, regardless of what happens, Aaron, people nationally are going to try to make this about Trump v. Biden, right? Because Trump gave Cameron the endorsement and Beshear is a Democrat. Do you think national politics, how much of a role are people saying that really played in this particular race? I
mean, it's one thing we've been wondering is, will that be a winning strategy for Attorney General Cameron to tie Beshear to President Biden? You know, will that be effective for him? Certainly, many people around the country are watching Kentucky tonight to try to see if they can learn something from that. What does that say when we have, you know, all but one member of our Kentucky congressional delegation they're all Republicans except for one. We have a supermajority of Republicans in the Kentucky legislature, and, you know, it's looking good for all the down ballot races right now.
And two Republican senators.
Yes, yeah, and two Republican senators as part of that delegation. So, but one thing I heard from Senate President Stivers, you know, he's saying that if Governor Beshear gets reelected tonight, that could be it, though, for Democratic governors in Kentucky for the foreseeable future. Who's behind Governor Beshear if he wins re-election tonight?
And that's a sentiment we've heard from other analysts as well. Aaron, thank you so much. And you were talking about what the national implications of that are. Mario Anderson and I had actually been talking about some statistics about what Kentucky's governor's race the year before a presidential election tends to be. And Mario is on set with us now. And Mario, what does Kentucky tend to project before the next presidential election. It seems like Kentucky's a bit of a trendsetter.
It has been, and I've been looking at some of that data. In 2015, when Matt Bevin at the time was winning Kentucky and becoming the governor, the following year Donald Trump became president in 2016. But then in 2019, when Andy Beshear won as governor for the first time, President Joe Biden, he became the president in the year 2020. So we shall see how that kind of factors into the 2024 election cycle. But again, Kentucky is all eyes on Kentucky, as it should be, but specifically as this governor's race is starting to, we're seeing again 53% of the vote right now, so half of those votes that were cast in this year's election cycle are being populated now. We're getting those results in real time, and you can see on your screen, as Lachlan and Amber are just mentioning, along with Aaron, that Governor Beshear, the incumbent, has about just under 53% of the vote. He's got over 421,000 votes. In 2019, Andy Beshear had about 700,000 votes, so he is at that mark, close to that mark so far, with just half of the vote already expected. And we'll show you quickly some of those counties that were being discussed by Aaron, some of the things going on in the elections cycle. We'll start looking at far west Kentucky and Graves County, where the tornadoes happened. Now, this particular county, Daniel Cameron is ahead with about 55% of the vote. Graves County, the last time a Democrat on the ballot running for governor won was when Steve Beshear won that back in 2003, Andy Beshear's dad. So this county has typically always voted for Republicans at the top of the ticket, but the vote margin is, just within a couple of thousand votes. So we'll see how that goes throughout the night. But then switching in eastern Kentucky, where some of the flooding happened there, you'll see some of the results that we're be able to pull up for you and show. Like in Floyd County, with 86% of the vote, Andy Beshear with 57% of the vote there, where the flooding happened in eastern Kentucky. Then also just neighboring above Floyd County, you'll see as we get everything going right here for you. As always, the live TV, it takes a little time to get things going, but the results, they're coming in hot and heavy, so that kind of makes a little glitch. But the vote totals are quickly, every minute, now we're at 56% of the expected vote. So it's interesting dynamics as we dive into the numbers and bring you more perspective. But again, we talked to you about earlier as well, Boone, there, which is traditionally a Republican-leaning county, that is in Daniel Cameron's favor, but the neighboring in Kenton and Campbell also showing Beshear needing to win those votes as he did in 2019. It appears that with 98% of the vote, you can see in Campbell County, Beshear's got a 2,000 or so vote margin there. So we'll continue to bring you these updates as the expected votes come in. Lachlan and Amber.
All right, Mario, thank you. And again, if you're just jumping in, it's 8:16 Eastern. We have in this hour shown you the victory speech from Allison Ball, who has been projected to be the winner of the state auditor's race. Spectrum News 1 also has projected Michael Adams to be reelected as Secretary of State. We are anticipating his victory speech shortly. We'll bring that to you if and when that happens. We have two other Republicans on statewide ballot who are not in Louisville. They're in Garrett County in Lancaster. Mark Metcalf running for state treasurer and Jonathan Schell running for agriculture commissioner. We do have crews there in Garrett County, and if and when those races are called, we will also bring you that coverage. And then, of course, the only race that I haven't touched on is the Attorney General race, where Russell Coleman is running against Pamela Stevenson. And again, Coleman has a lead there, but that race has not yet been called. But obviously, all eyes are going to be on the top of the ballot and whether Andy Beshear can be reelected for another 4 years. And thus far, the early signs are positive, but we will wait and see. And of course, we'll be here throughout the course of the night. We're being told an MC has approached the stage at the Republican Watch Party.
Once again, anyone just kind of jumping in, we have not yet heard from projected winner of the Secretary of State race, the incumbent Michael Adams, a Republican. We did hear from Allison Ball. That's at the same watch party. Basically, we're hearing that there's some movement going on out there, so likely we will be hearing from him soon, as there are other people having their watch party there as well. Many of the Republicans there, except for the two that you mentioned that are in Garrett County. But once again, none of those have been called, though. At this hour, with this amount of vote, there is a sizable lead. Right now, we've got about 56% of the vote in, and like we said, I'd just give a quick rundown. Governor Beshear has a lead with 52.8% at this current time. The Attorney General's race, Russell Coleman, the Republican, has a lead of 57.9% over 42.1% for Pamela Stevenson, the Democrat. In the Secretary of State race, as we said, that has been called for Michael Adams. We expect to hear from him at any moment now. It seems as though there is movement going on there. And in the agriculture commissioner race, Jonathan Schell, the Republican, has 59.4% of the votes at this time to Sierra Enloe, the Democrats, 40.6%. Auditor of Kentucky, Allison Ball, that race has been called for her. She already gave her acceptance speech. And then for Treasurer of Kentucky, Mark Metcalf has a lead there. But I hear we have Secretary of State Michael Adams taking the stage now. Let's listen in.
Thank you so much. Good evening. On this stage 4 years ago, I told you that Mission Impossible had become mission accomplished. Our larger mission, though, wasn't just to win, but to make a difference in the lives of Kentuckians. And we've accomplished that mission, too. In just 4 years, we've taken Kentucky from the bottom in election administration to the top. And thanks to your support, we'll continue making it easy to vote and hard to cheat. Kentucky has defied the odds and the laws of political physics by taking the highly polarized third rail issue of how we vote, putting politics aside, approaching it inclusively and in good faith, and courageously making the biggest changes in over 100 years. We're the only state doing that. If we can boldly take Kentucky from the bottom to the top in election reform, why can't we do the same with education, with public safety, with quality of life, with social mobility? The answer is we absolutely can. And I'm optimistic for our long-term future in the Commonwealth. The voters spoke clearly, and we should take note of what they said. Kentuckians rejected a negative campaign steeped in anger and divisiveness and a fixation on extraneous issues. Kentuckians rewarded a positive campaign that offered uplift, unity, and a focus on the real problems that matter to our people. Kentuckians are smart. They want to know what's in your heart, and they want to see results. These past 4 years, I've shown you my heart, and I've shown you results. I thank Kentuckians across the political spectrum for your overwhelming trust in me. I will not let you down. Thank you, Kentucky. Thank you so much. Thank you.
A short and sweet speech there from current...
I'm here for the trend of short speeches, though. Allison Ball.
I was almost kind of leaning back a little. I'm like, all right, there we go.
I don't think either one of them spoke for more than 5 minutes. That's not too shabby.
Not the norm on election night, but we will absolutely take it. There's a little bump shot from that room right now. But, you know, a little shaky there, so we're coming back to us. So basically, you know, Secretary of State Michael Adams talking about election reform, as many Kentuckians now have been voting early, as we saw those numbers were up this year. And that was a big thing he said. And he's like, if we can work kind of cross aisle on some things, why can't we do it on others? Which was pretty interesting, not typically in the role of a Secretary of State. So it'd be interesting to see if he has aspirations to work with some of the other state officers as well.
And Aaron, I'm curious about, we have Jacqueline Powell and our David Williams at that Republican Watch Party, and we'll hear from them throughout the course of the night. But if you're a Republican and you win all the down ballot races, but you lose the governor's office, like, what grade do you give tonight? Again, not saying that race has been projected, but Andy Beshear is leading, so we're just going to ask that line of questioning. I know the Republicans wanted to sweep, perhaps had an expectation of a sweep.
Sure. They're telling me they're cautiously optimistic about tonight. They felt good about the down ballot races, but cautiously optimistic about securing the top of the ticket there. But, you know, keep in mind the Republican supermajority in the legislature really means that they can get through what they want to get through. I mean, there were several measures that Governor Beshear vetoed this year, and they're able to easily override that veto. So I think what I'm hearing is, you know, that if Attorney General Cameron is elected, that maybe there'll be more of a close working relationship with lawmakers. At least that's what Republicans are saying, because they're saying there hasn't been a working relationship with Governor Beshear, despite the fact that, you know, Governor Beshear has talked about and campaigned on some of those bills like medical cannabis and sports betting. You know, he certainly has stood side to, you know, shoulder to shoulder with Republicans on some of those measures. But when you talk to people like Senate President Steyer, survivors, he feels like they'll be able to work closely with Attorney General Cameron if he is elected governor, and that there just hasn't been that cooperation. But depends on which side you talk to.
Yeah, I did think it was interesting. I overheard your conversation with a member of the legislature this afternoon, and to some extent he just said, look, Governor Beshear is in some ways irrelevant because the Republicans have so much power in the legislature. When the governor gave his State of the Commonwealth speech, they were like, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
You may want those teacher raises.
Exactly.
You may want universal pre-K. But ultimately, the Republicans are really the ones that can control that budget that's coming up.
Yeah. All right, I believe we have another report ready to be. We do not. We are told.
We do not.
Yet.
There is 2 Republicans that are having their watch parties in Garrett County and obviously monitoring that. And those races have not been called at this time. Right now, the 2 statewide races that have been called were for Secretary of State, Michael Adams, a Republican incumbent, getting the nomination for that. And then Auditor of Kentucky going for Allison Ball. Those have both been called at this hour. Nothing else at this point other than State House District 93, which was vacant after someone passed away, and that has been called for Adriel Camuel, a Democrat, and that is in some central Kentucky areas. Really, at this hour, we're watching some sizable leads for Republicans on the down ballot, and Beshear still maintains the lead. At this point, 59% of the votes are in. So still a lot to keep watching, but I'd have to think that sometimes some of the optimism from the Cameron count may be fading at this point, and many down ballot Republicans are feeling optimistic, maybe seeing when it may be called to go ahead and take the stage at this point.
And we did say that obviously for Andy Beshear to win, he's got to do very well in the large metropolitan areas. Fayette and Jefferson counties, and he is up, again, preliminary numbers here, by 44 points in Fayette County, Beshear, and Jefferson County plus 45 for Beshear. So he is doing what he needed to do, which was dominate the large metro urban areas. And we just want to keep pointing out the counties that haven't reported yet are the far western part of the state, which you would assume would be a Cameron strong.
Sure. And Republicans saying that Cameron needs to do well in northern Kentucky, the southeastern part of the state, far west part of the state, Bowling Green and beyond. So, and there's also some factors that are different in this year's election, right? We don't have a third party candidate like we did in 2019. He's not running against Governor Matt Bevin, who, some people, I just talked to a political science professor about this, who said some didn't consider him to be very popular of a candidate. And in fact, I had one Republican today say that people really were voting either for or against Bevin, not for Beshear. Now, that's on the Republican side of things. That's how they feel about it. But, again, they're feeling cautiously optimistic about Cameron's chances. Democrats are saying, look, Governor Beshear has earned 4 more years. People like him. People know him. People trust him. He's led us through all of the disasters this state has seen, just from the COVID-19 pandemic to the flooding to the tornadoes, and you don't change the coach when you're winning the game. That's been the messaging that I've been hearing from that side.
That is a good point, though, and Mario brought it up as well. That third-party candidate in 2019 got 28,000 votes that are now going to be redistributed between the 2 candidates, Beshear and Cameron. And again, thus far, still not decided yet, but Beshear is outperforming how he did. For whatever reason, he's outperforming how he did in 2019.
And we had, him leading consistently in the polls. And there was one poll that was released very late, just a couple days ago. And some people have issue with the timing of that. But it was showing that they were in a dead heat. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
All right. We're going to continue our coverage live from Decision 2023. We'll bring you victory speeches when they occur here on Spectrum News 1.
I've always been fascinated with the sky, and now I get to observe it every day, whether it's my passion for the stars or my love for telling you the weather. That's one of the best parts of my job. I get to come in here every day doing something that I love, working with the best equipment and working with people that are passionate about weather. Who could beat that? I consider myself really lucky. I have a great family. I have a job I love, and I live in a place that I'm so happy to call home.
retail for 19 years.
I'm widowed. I'm middle age.
Working on the rivers, long haul trucking. That's all I've ever known.
I knew it was time for me to be there.
Now I'm a computer programmer.
And I'm a software developer.
I am a software engineer.
This is the future, I'd say.
Sundays, Spectrum News 1 presents In Focus Kentucky with Mario Anderson. A half-hour show digging into the issues that impact the Commonwealth, where decision makers come together and examine what matters to you. Your state, your issues, your show. In Focus Kentucky with Mario Anderson. Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. on Spectrum News 1. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Thanks for joining us on this election night. I'm Amber Smith.
And I am Lachlan McLean. Let's take a look at your Spectrum News in 90. As Amber said, it is election night. We are keeping a close eye on all the races. At last count, there were nearly 3.5 million Kentuckians registered to vote this year. But despite 260,000 of them voting early, turnout's expected to be around 42%. Still much higher than it was for the primaries, which was 14%.
The city of Louisville broke ground on a nearly $3 million project to revitalize Elliott Park in the Russell neighborhood. That project will build a new playground, picnic areas, and a field house. It's expected to be finished in the next year.
And now through Friday, Louisville Metro Animal Services collecting food donations for dogs in the shelter. It'll be picked up at their location off Newburgh Road.
A near record or record warm day coming up here on Wednesday as highs will soar into the upper 70s and lower 80s with a lot of sunshine out there, especially during the afternoon hours. Winds will be a bit gusty as well, though, so remember that. Forecast Wednesday night into early Thursday. A front rolls in from the northwest. That'll bring a small chance for a shower to the area, but also some cooler air behind that front. Thursday will be nowhere near as warm as what it was on Wednesday. High temperatures only hitting the 60s for most areas. That's your news in 90.
Thanks for joining us here for our continued live coverage of Decision 2023. Obviously, at this hour, we're still waiting on some races to be called, but two statewide elections have been called at this point. That would be for Secretary of State Michael Adams, the Republican incumbent, and also a Republican, Allison Ball, has been called for Auditor of Kentucky. At this time, we're keeping a close eye on all of the other races as the vote totals come in. Right now, over 60% of the votes in. So we really are keeping an eye on things. At this time, Governor Andy Beshear does have a bit of a lead over Daniel Cameron.
And if you weren't with us earlier, we had the victory speeches from both Allison Ball and Michael Adams. We're anticipating more victory speeches for the down ballot races for the Republicans, perhaps as soon as 5-10 minutes from now. Again, no other races have been officially called. So then we're following the top of the ticket. And from very early in the evening, Andy Beshear has taken an early lead and he has not relinquished it. So let's go to our Mario Anderson now is following the results and some of the key counties that we're watching. Hey, Mario.
Hey, Lachlan and Amber, and yes, we're continuing to track as we currently see right now at about 8:30 Eastern time with 63% of the expected vote. Andy Beshear, the Democrat, the incumbent governor here in our state of Kentucky with 52% of the vote, currently against his Republican challenger, the current Attorney General Daniel Cameron. And again, since we last showed you this here, the totals have obviously gone up, but Beshear still with quite a larger lead with 473,000 votes cast for him compared to Daniel Cameron, who has about 435,000. And again, in the 2019 race that Andy Beshear ran in, he had about 700,000 votes as his vote total in 2019. So we shall see how he shakes out in this particular race in 2023. But we'll quickly whiz through some of the counties that we're tracking. We'll start and show you here in central Kentucky area. You can see lots of blue. The blue on these maps represent represent the Democratic support in favor of Beshear, and then on the red is in support of the Republican nominee, Daniel Cameron. We'll show you Fayette County, the state's second largest county. We are showing that with 92% of the vote, Daniel Cameron has about 28% compared to Andy Beshear with 71%. We've also been tracking just south of Fayette County in Madison County, where with just 99% of the expected vote, Andy Beshear, it appears he will pick up Madison County for the second time. He won this particular county in 2019. He flipped it from being a Republican voting county in 2015, but Madison County showing it will be going to Andy Beshear just with under about 1,000 vote margin there. But then going up north to Scott County, we'll show you again Andy Beshear as well, again with 99% of the vote, 54% of the vote. He won this county as well in 2019, but traditionally the last couple of governor cycles here in Kentucky, the Republican nominee have won these counties. So Beshear maintaining his 2019 margins, and it appears that he's having a little higher vote margin. But that's what we're seeing in Central Kentucky. And we'll show you quickly, again, some neighboring counties as well. And we'll show you here, Breckinridge County, Daniel Cameron has 58% there. Then also next door, you'll see in Meade County, Daniel Cameron with some leads there. But overall, and we bring you back to the 70% of the vote, Andy Beshear now with 500,000 votes, 533,000 votes so far with 70% of the vote. So we'll continue to track this and also show you those down ballot race results and those totals for some of those winners that have already been projected as winners, but also the ones we're still waiting on. So, but for now, we'll send things to you, Lachlan, and also Amber.
Mario, thank you. And again, we mentioned it earlier in the evening, but in 2019, Andy Beshear only won 23 of the state's 120 counties. But if you win the right ones, that's enough. And Mario, you saw Scott County there, and he won it in 2019. Beshear did by 1 point. Tonight, he's up by 10 points. That's the type of outperformance we're talking about, which potentially could lead to a Beshear victory.
We are going to take you to seemingly an acceptance speech from Mark Metcalf in Garrett County. Let's take a listen.
And so for that reason, I'm leaving a job I love for another job that I hope is loved just as much. We have campaigned across this state standing tall for the working men and women of Kentucky, for the bricklayer, for the carpenter, for the farmer, the policeman, and the coal miner. And I intend to work just as hard for them as your state treasurer as I have in campaigning for this office. I believe very much that what we've accomplished tonight will have the kind of impact that will lead other rural Kentuckians to declare for office in positions of leadership across this great commonwealth of ours. And without your assistance tonight, that would not have been possible. I am a proud and devoted son of this great county and equally of this great commonwealth. I thank each of you for being here tonight. I want to recognize just a few people that I think you should know about before I leave the podium. Where's Andrew? There he is, got his hand raised. Andrew Holt has done a wonderful job as our campaign manager. He is a logistics magician. He knew how to get from A to B and to C and to D and so forth every time we hit the road. He's also great with people. He knows how to treat human beings. He treats them just like what they are. They're good people, and that's the way he treats everyone. And I also want to thank my wife's family and my family who are here tonight, and they're over to your right and to my left, but they're great people, just like people from Garrett County. And I want to finish with this. One last point. I could not have gotten here without a lot of people who are not in front of the camera right now, but behind the camera. And I'll never forget that it's you people, you wonderful people behind the camera, that have made this event possible tonight. To you I say thank you and God bless.
We were just hearing a speech from Republican Mark Metcalf giving an acceptance speech for treasurer. We followed the Associated Press in calling the races, and so far Spectrum News 1 has not called that race, though Metcalf does have a lead, and we just heard him giving that acceptance speech now.
Yeah, I thought that's an important thing to to point out. He is giving a victory speech. We have not called that race now. Our SpectrumNews1.com, of course, has results as they come in. They're showing him with 57% of the vote to Michael Bowman, his challenger's 43%, with about 70% of the expected vote totals in. So I don't think it's outlandish to do a victory speech at this point. But again, that race has not yet been officially called. But that was Mark Metcalf, currently Garrett County attorney, who is potentially our state's next treasurer.
In that same area, there's two Republicans that aren't having a watch party in Louisville with the other Republicans. The other one's Jonathan Schell, who is a Republican running for agriculture commissioner. Right now, he has a lead with 62% of the votes, and things could be updating. My computer might not be updating quite as quickly, but he has a lead over Sierra Enlow right now. Jonathan Schell, the Republican, with 60% of the votes, and Sierra Enlow with 39% of the votes, almost 40% at this point. So it was interesting that we heard from Metcalf, who's there in Garrett County, and we didn't hear from Jonathan Schell, who at this point, based on our numbers, has a little bit more of a lead over his challenger. So it's really interesting how they look at these races, but it sounds like maybe there's movement there, and we could be hearing from him at some point.
And again, we have not yet had the race called, nor have we heard in the Attorney General's race where Russell Coleman is going up against Pamela Stevenson. We anticipate that race going toward the GOP by the end of the night, but it hasn't been called. Let's bring back Aaron Kelly and your impressions of what we've seen thus far. Polls have been closed about 2 hours and 40 minutes in the Eastern time zone, about an hour and 40 minutes in the Central time zone. Has there been anything surprising? I know you talked to a lot of people going into tonight. Almost no result would have shocked us other than a massive blowout one way or the other.
I mean, what I was hearing was, this was going to be a razor-thin race, between the two candidates for governor, but that generally for the down-ballot races, that there was an expectation that Republicans would do well in all of those. And I think that's what we're seeing. They're not all in yet. We haven't called everything yet, but from the ones we've reported, all Republicans. And the story of the night is what's going to happen in the governor's mansion. Will Governor Beshear be reelected and get to keep his job as coach of the team, as he's been kind of referring to himself, the quarterback, or will Attorney General Cameron be able to take over? And was his messaging effective? We've heard a lot of the same messages from both candidates just throughout the last year. From Governor Beshear that this is an economy in Kentucky that is on fire. You always hear about the battery plants in Hardin County. You hear about the Brent Spence Companion Bridge. How he has sort of led the state through all of these disasters from COVID-19 through deadly flooding and deadly tornadoes, that he was supportive of bipartisan legislation. He finally got sports betting done. Now Republicans would say that wasn't Governor Beshear that did that. They were the ones that did that, but so that's been his messaging. It's been consistent. And from Attorney General Cameron, focusing on public safety, saying, I am the candidate that has the support from and for law enforcement. He has the endorsement of the FOP that Governor Beshear previously had in 2019, and also saying that he's the candidate that represents what he calls Kentucky's values, criticizing Governor Beshear for his vetoing of some legislation, including anti-trans legislation, which took up a lot of discussion during this last legislative session. So one thing we've been wondering is, was it an effective strategy to tie or attempt to tie Governor Beshear to President Joe Biden, saying, hey, look, you're paying more at the grocery store. You're dealing with inflation. Here's a candidate that's supportive of President Biden and of Biden policies. The polling has had Governor Beshear ahead, but it started to show it tightening in recent days. There are some that'll say, don't really worry about the polls. Worry about what actually happens on Election Day. We know that turnout was projected to be 42% for this election, and that is about what it was in 2019. I'm interested to see, really, who showed up and where.
Aaron, did you talk to anyone about how turnout could impact this race, what a high or low voter turnout would mean?
Sorry. I think they just said we have somebody that's available.
Maybe Jonathan Schell accepting for Commissioner of Agriculture down in Garrett County, Lancaster. Let's take a listen in now. Live coverage from there.
Before you tonight, and we could not be more excited to tell you about our best buddy, and a native son of Garrett County. 10 years ago or so, I met this state representative that you all sent to Frankfort. He was clearly pretty smart, clearly a very hard worker. Not so clear was if he had ever worn a suit jacket and tie before. But nonetheless, a great guy and a very impressive representative and voice for this community. As I got to know him and watch him over the years, it became even more clear that this is a guy that fights for his faith, his family, his farm, and his community. Someone that didn't just talk the talk, but would fight the fights to make a difference in people's lives. I saw someone so determined to change this state, to change this county. I saw someone who was determined to take care of children in need, so much that it inspired Lindsay, my wife, and myself in our own life. I saw someone that stood beside me and Lindsay on the happiest day of our life. Well, the happiest day of my life. I don't know about her at this moment.
Ask me tomorrow.
Yeah. He's always fought for this county. He's always fought for this region. And now, thanks to Garrett County and the rest of Kentucky, he's going to fight for our entire state. Ladies, we could not be more excited. We could not be more honored to introduce you to the next Commissioner of Agriculture, Jonathan Schell.
Start out by just saying that I give all glory to God, Jesus Christ, my Savior. Amen. For this land. I want to start out by just saying thank you to my beautiful wife, Brooke, who's been with me by my side in the ups and downs in our life. And, the lowest moments that I've been and the highest moments that I've had, she's always been there as my encourager. Not behind me, but beside of me. And all of you that know her know that she's a lot more impressive than I am. And, Brooke, I love you. Thank you. I want to also say thank you to my children who have loaned me out to all of you for the last 2.5 years as I've run this campaign for Commissioner of Agriculture. And I know they're excited for this campaign to be over, so that we can get back to t-ball games and baseball games and basketball and being at home a little bit more. But I also want to say thank you to my home county. It's significant why we're here tonight. As far as I know, there's never been 2 constitutional officers elected from the same county, let alone a county of 17,000 people. I'm extremely excited to stand here beside of one of my friends, someone who I could not be more happy to be on the ballot with than our next state treasurer, Mark Metcalf. I want to say thank you to all the elected officials here in Garrett County who have pushed and pushed and pushed in the primary and the general election to ensure that we were able to get the votes that we needed to make a difference in this campaign. And that's always led by our county judge, Chris Elman. Chris, thank you so much for your work. I also want to say thank you to the men and women behind me that serve in the state legislature, that have fought back against overreach from the federal government and from this governor from day one. The reason that we have the economic opportunities that we have in this state right now is because of these men and women that stand behind me and these Republican majorities. Thank you. to say thank you also to my mother, Faye Huffman, who's here tonight. Mom, thank you for all the sacrifices over the years. I wasn't going to do this, I told you. All the sacrifices over the years that you've made on my behalf so that I can stand in front of this podium. Thank you. And I also want to say thank you to Stedley Gregg. I want to say thank you.
You've been watching live coverage from Lancaster, Garrett County, the acceptance speech of Jonathan Schell for Agriculture Commissioner, and we just want to break out of that because it appears there's an acceptance speech going for Attorney General now.
Yeah, Russell Coleman is taking the stage in downtown Louisville. Let's listen in.
Of Kentucky. I stand here tonight at the end of an 18-month job interview filled with gratitude, humility, and more determination than ever. To all those listening in this room and around Kentucky, whether you supported me or not, I promise you this. We will protect your family. We will defend your rights. And we will back the blue. For the neighborhoods in West Louisville struggling to address violence, for rural counties and small towns fearful that Washington's radical agenda is attacking our values and our way of life, for the parents across Kentucky who lay awake even this evening worrying about their kids that they may fall a victim to the poison that we're seeing flow from over a porous southwest border, and for the law enforcement leaders who risk their lives every day, who'll be out there on dark country roads and answering calls this evening when we're in our beds safe tonight. I see you, I hear you, and I will represent all of you. And to Representative Stevenson, Colonel Stevenson, we may come from different parties and bring different philosophies, but I appreciate her service to our Commonwealth, and I appreciate her service to this nation. Please join me in honoring that. As Attorney General, I look forward to working with anyone, regardless of party, who will stand with our law enforcement, who will protect our families, and who will help me put drug traffickers and violent criminals behind bars where they belong. Getting elected today was a team effort. What a privilege to be part of such an incredible Republican ticket. We spent many hours together at Lincoln Day dinners, Fancy Farm, and on the bus tour. And I can tell you that Allison, Mark, Jonathan, and Mike are all first-rate leaders with tremendous integrity and tremendous competence. Above all, I'm proud to follow in the shoes of an extraordinary Attorney General, my good friend, my good friend, Daniel J. Cameron. As you know, he is a man of faith, of character. He is a once-in-a-generation talent. I always knew that Daniel was destined for many great things, so much so that we named our kid for him. I pause for a moment because there are enormous shoes to fill in following the footsteps of our 52nd Attorney General. Our soon-to-be treasurer, Mr. Metcalf, likes to say that sometimes shoes are just so enormous they can't be filled, but you seek to walk in them, to follow behind them, to seek the counsel of those that came before you. And I can certainly say that in regard to our 51st Attorney General, Daniel Cameron. Ronald Reagan was very fond of saying there's no limit to what you can accomplish, the amount of good that you can do if you don't care who gets the credit. Now, that's much easier said sometimes in politics. This victory, it isn't just mine. It is yours. It belongs to all of you who prayed for us, who contributed precious resources, who welcomed me into your homes. The best part of this campaign was meeting the extraordinary people from every corner of this Commonwealth, and the barbecue, of course, the barbecue as well. To our Commonwealths and county attorneys, some of whom are in this room, to our sheriffs, to our chiefs of police, to my brothers and sisters in the Fraternal Order of Police, the FOP, those who stood up early and often to support this campaign, this is your win. You won't just have a seat at the table. We will focus on supporting you every day we serve in the Attorney General's office. Now, to my team, from volunteers to the best in the business crew at Run Switch PR, thank you for allowing me in this campaign to be the beneficiary of your considerable talent. You made me better. I want to say a special thanks, where is he, to Gavin Henshaw. A young man who has become like family. He spent countless hours in the truck with me from the mountains to our river counties and everywhere in between, always with a smile, and as many of you all know, always professional, always with an encouraging word. Gavin has made his native Paducah and his family very proud. And most importantly, friends, to my amazing wife, Ashley, and our... and our incredible kids. They made one sacrifice after another for this moment. We're not a perfect family. We're not perfect individuals. But I am deeply grateful that God gave them to me. As I close, before someone files cloture on this filibuster, I'm in awe of this journey. From a kid growing up in rural West Kentucky who dreamed of one day becoming an FBI agent and serving my country, fulfilling that dream and serving both domestically and abroad, to the medical challenge that left me paralyzed and leaning quite literally on my wife and medical team to learn to walk again. To Senator Mitch McConnell, who changed the trajectory of my professional and personal life. Make no mistake, friends, I didn't make this happen. I do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I stand here today because of his blessings and the love and support of the people in this room. That's a great former colleague there. Thank you, Judge. I'm honored to be your next Attorney General. And friends, may God protect the men and women of Kentucky law enforcement and the people of our Commonwealth.
You were just listening to Russell Coleman giving an acceptance speech for Attorney General. We've now heard from all of the Republicans in the statewide races, except for, of course, the governor's race. We did hear Russell Coleman talking a lot about his close relationship with outgoing Attorney General Daniel Cameron, who is running for governor of Kentucky right now, losing to Andy Beshear with the votes that are in at this point.
Yeah, we should update. Of course, the scroll at the bottom of your screen has vote results. You can go to SpectrumNews1.com and get those. But with 80% of the votes in now, it's starting to look like it's a very difficult path for Daniel Cameron to be the next governor of Kentucky. Andy Beshear, it's up by, I'm looking here, 77,000 votes. And again, the Associated Press I'm just seeing now has called the race for Andy Beshear. I'm just seeing that on my screen now. The Associated Press says Andy Beshear will retain the governor's seat here in Kentucky. That is just coming in on my computer right now. And again, we have crews at the Democratic Watch Party. I'm not sure if Mason Brighton is there, but he is there. I bet it's in a pretty excited room, Mason.
Well, we have just seen that the Associated Press has called this race for Governor Andy Beshear. We're still waiting for him to pull up. We know that his bus is here. One of his senior advisors has came out. It sounds like the crowd has just found out the news as we are reporting it now. So there's definitely a lot of excitement going on in the room. A lot of hands are up. People are really excited. And you can just see those cheers. We would expect to see Governor Beshear making his way on stage here fairly soon. This has really been a long-fought race between both candidates. Lots of people here say that they are just excited this is happening. I spoke to some state lawmakers a few minutes ago. They told me that they were just excited that this was happening. And I mean, you can just hear it. There is just lots of excitement all around. People have got their hands up. They've got their signs up. And really, this has kind of been what they have been waiting for all evening long. I'm going to send it back to you guys in the studio, but I do expect we'll be back here at the watch party to hear from Governor Beshear in the next few minutes as they start to cheer Andy's name.
All right, Mason, thank you so much. Really, we were hearing that reaction as it came down as Locke was like, oh, wait, the AP just called it for him. We were hearing that same reaction starting to trickle throughout the room there at the watch party. We will, of course, keep a close eye on everything going on there. And if Andy Beshear takes the stage, we will, of course, share that with you.
And remember, 4 years ago, this race was not called till around 10 p.m. Eastern. This year, 9 p.m. Eastern, a full hour. This, what we all anticipated, or many anticipated, was going to be a close race. I think it's really not, honestly, Aaron.
No, it's definitely not the roughly 5,000 vote difference that we saw in 2019. UK professor Stephen Voss just posting on social media, Beshear, this was before this was called, it was doing better almost everywhere compared to what he needed to do in those places to break even. So, and those places were Northern Kentucky, Lexington, Louisville, and looks like, doing better than expected.
Well, they call it the Golden Triangle. He had to win of the three biggest counties in the state, Jefferson, Fayette, and Kenton, and Beshear won them all, Jefferson and Fayette, by over 40 points each, and the state's two most populous counties. I was looking at some of the numbers. Jefferson County has 18% of the state's registered voters. Fayette County has 7%. So put those two together, that's 25% of the state, and Beshear won those counties by over 40 points. That's a lot of votes.
Yeah, it's not just about winning those counties.
Yeah,
it's about by
dominating.
What margin,
Yeah.
and that's what people are really looking at when they do go ahead and call these races before all of the votes are in, especially considering, that some of those more central time zones that are coming in a little bit later were those western Kentucky counties, but they were still able to call it because of the sizable margin.
There's just not enough people.
Key areas.
Yeah. And one Republican lawmaker in the House says that they believe that this major issue that really impacted this race was the issue of abortion. And, Kentucky has not had access to abortion since the summer of 2022, when there was the reversal of Roe v. Wade that led to Kentucky's abortion ban being implemented with no exceptions for rape or incest. We saw that come up in an ad that Beshear shared that had the story of a woman who was raped at the age of 12, and she went after Attorney General Daniel Cameron for his defense of the ban. Now, if you remember, back during our Spectrum News debate in March, our Mario Anderson asked Cameron if he supported any exceptions for rape or incest, or any exceptions, and if there were any exceptions, what would they be? He said he supported the current law. And then later we heard him say that if the legislature brought him a bill that had exceptions, that he would sign it. but keep in mind, there was a Republican bill that was filed earlier this year that did have those exceptions. It didn't go anywhere. So that's just one person's opinion that was the issue here. But I mean, there's going to be a lot of takes on this tonight on why it was exactly the way they went.
That was certainly one of the more national issues at play that a lot of people outside of Kentucky were keeping their eye on, of if that would be a motivating factor for people who were in support of Beshear to get out to the polls. And it seems like that was really what was going to make a decision, not just who has the support, but who actually gets their base out to the polls, motivates them enough to want to go out and vote in this election, one that was projected to have a 42% turnout. So not an entire state, right around the same size as the last Kentucky governor's race, back in 2019. And this is a very different race than that one. So it's really interesting because back then, a lot of people were voting for Beshear as a way to not vote for Bevin at that point. And this one seemed a little bit different. It seems like some of those votes that were perhaps people that were voting for Republicans were voting for Beshear after seeing him in office for 4 years. And it'd be interesting to talk to some of those people about what was motivating them to go one way for the governor's ticket when they were going in the different party for all of the down ballot races. What was it about Beshear that was motivating people to split their ticket that way?
And again, if you're just joining us at the top of the hour, it's 9:04 Eastern, 8:04 Central, and you are looking at a live picture from the Democratic Watch Party, which is at Paristown in Louisville, and their candidate for governor, Andy Beshear, has been projected by the Associated Press as the winner of the governor's race. And I want to just piggyback on something that Amber said. You know, the last election, we've characterized it as an election like against Matt Bevin, maybe more than for Andy Beshear. I feel like, to some extent, this election perhaps was about a vote for Beshear because he had 4 years to tell the state that they kind of liked him, even to the point that Daniel Cameron had to started his messaging in a late ad saying, okay, we know Andy Beshear's a nice guy, but here's all these things I don't like about it.
He's soft on crime.
But he had to acknowledge that the personality of Andy Beshear was and did make inroads with the state of Kentucky.
Yes, I mean, and talking to, a leader in the House for the Democratic Party, just basically saying that, we all feel like we know him, is what she said, that people feel like he's a part of the family. And, he was talking to Kentuckians in their homes every day in a time that was very scary.
During the pandemic, he was giving addresses for sometimes well over an hour for days on end. I think the first time he took a break from that was on Father's Day, which was well into the pandemic. So Kentuckians were well used to hearing from him. He also got national attention for handling of the natural disasters, both in Western Kentucky and Eastern Kentucky with the tornadoes and floods, respectively. So a lot of people were used to seeing Beshear on their TV screens a lot, not just for the typical experience of a governor, but for many other things as well.
All right, we've had our Mario Anderson tracking the results all night long. He's been with us live, normally in the mornings, but we're keeping him up late tonight because this is an important night. Mario, what can you tell us about this governor's race?
Well, of course, we've got 81% of the vote that we're showing right now. As you all mentioned, Andy Beshear was having another 4 years in Frankfort in the governor's mansion. We'll show you some of these results as we're seeing them at this hour at officially 9:06 Eastern, 8:06 Central here in our state of Kentucky. And we'll show you first in Central Kentucky area. Again, we've got some counties that we're showing. The blue represents the counties that have gone Democrat in favor of Andy Beshear. The red represents the counties that went for the Republican Daniel Cameron. And right now, again, we'll just show you some of these right now. Mercer County and Central Kentucky went for Daniel Cameron in the red. But then if you go to Fayette County, the second largest county in our state, Andy Beshear won that. No surprises there, but won with 74% or 71% of the vote there. But then we'll scooch back down over to over here, and you can see this. I want to show this area, Hardin County. That is a hometown of Daniel Cameron, the Republican nominees from Elizabethtown area. Well, that county went blue in favor of Andy Beshear and the Democratic ticket there. But then we'll go over to far western Kentucky, and we'll show you as well an area that we've been looking at, Henderson. Henderson is the hometown of Daniel Cameron's running mate, Robbie Mills. He's from Henderson, but that county, Beshear won it in 2019. Well, in 2023, he's with 99% of the vote. Andy Beshear is picking up Henderson, which is, again, Daniel Cameron's running mate, Robbie Mills' hometown. So interesting to see that dynamic for this race. That's one of the reasons that Daniel Cameron wanted to have Robbie Mills as his lieutenant governor candidate on the ticket to maybe be able to pull Henderson County in the Republican column. But voters there have chosen Andy Beshear by a couple of thousand votes in Henderson. But we'll again show you a couple of other areas in our state. Obviously, in the southern region of the state, a lot of red in favor of the Republican Daniel Cameron, but then we'll show you Knott County, some of these areas affected by the eastern Kentucky flooding last year. You can see these counties. Overall, in 2019, Andy Beshear won about 23 counties out of the 120 counties in his race that he won in 2019, but in 2023, he's plus 30 counties that he's so far leading. Again, we only have 82% of the vote, but we'll continue to have these votes trickling in. But you can see the maps on your screen, a lot more blue compared to his last win. But as you heard Lachlan and Amber and Aaron talk about, a lot of enthusiasm about the Beshear campaign and the brand name of Andy that he has been campaigning on, but also his dad, his father served as a governor for 8 years. So the Beshear brand has been around in Kentucky politics now for about 40 years. So that is what we're seeing here, and again, ultimately is leading and showing why Andy Beshear has 623,000 votes here so far compared to Daniel Cameron's 557,000. And again, 2019, Beshear, he had 709,846 votes. Well, he is at 626 right now at 9:09 Eastern. And again, in 2019, there are about 1.4 million votes cast. About 30 minutes ago, we had numbers showing that about 1.2 million votes had been cast, ballots cast. So we'll see what that final number is. But again, we're showing that Andy Beshear with just under 53% of the vote so far compared to Daniel Cameron, and Andy Beshear, again, will serve another 4 years in Frankfort as the only Democrat in the state, Kentucky's executive branch. So we shall see how the next 4 years goes for his time in office. So we'll send things back to you, Lachlan and Amber.
Mario, thank you. And again, Aaron, you pointed out yesterday in some of our preview coverage that Kentucky's only had 3 Democratic governors since the 1960s.
3 Republican governors.
3 Republican governors.
Yes, since the 1960s.
Since the 1960s. Yeah. Okay, so it is a Republican state now, but historically that was not the case, and we will have another Beshear in the office. So 16 years of Beshear governors will end up in Kentucky history.
And some Republicans will tell you, Republicans have a deep bench to continue putting people out there to be candidates for governor, but they question who the Democratic Party has following Beshear. Well, Democrats have 4 years to worry about that now.
Well, and then the question becomes, how much of a national figure does Andy Beshear become as a successful Democrat in a heavily Republican state? You know that people will look and say, what lessons can the Democratic Party learn from this? And I don't know what those are.
Yeah, what can Republicans learn from that? What can Democrats learn from it? Because both parties and people across the country are watching Kentucky tonight. This is a race that has gained national attention. People have been following this closely, and they're going to want to see what they can take away from that. Is this an anomaly, or was there something in the strategy? And just looking at our emails coming in here, we're getting, statements coming in from the Fairness Campaign. This one is from Executive Director Chris Hartman saying Kentucky just reelected its most pro-LGBTQ governor ever, Andy Beshear, saying it's a resounding victory for LGBTQ Kentuckians and especially transgender kids who were, quote, forced to bear the brunt of attacks, not just from the Kentucky General Assembly, but also by Daniel Cameron, who, as Hartman puts it, who sought to score cheap political points with anti-trans attack ads and harmful rhetoric. And we know that at Senate Bill 150, the anti-trans legislation became a real talking point. It was a big point of discussion, I should say, throughout the legislative session. And that was a bill that was vetoed by Governor Beshear and led to back and forth in the debate debates between Beshear and Cameron, and Cameron criticized Beshear for his veto of that. Here's the Fairness Campaign saying, well, your strategy didn't work there.
Well, and Aaron, you cover the state legislature really closely. When we look ahead at what's to come after this race has been called for incumbent Governor Andy Beshear, a Democrat here leading Kentucky with a super majority of Republicans in the state legislature, what do you expect to be the big themes of this legislative session, and how might things be different knowing that Andy Beshear will stay in office compared to what would have been if Attorney General Daniel Cameron had won that spot?
Well, I mean, they do have the supermajority. Republicans have the supermajority, so I would imagine that they have, issues that they want to tackle in 2024 that they will move right ahead with. And, it's a budget year. It's a longer session than we had this year. There was a lot that didn't get done this year. If you talk to lawmakers, that they had to cut from the list of things to get done just because we didn't have the time to do it. But Republicans don't see themselves having a good relationship with Governor Beshear when it comes to the legislature. They don't view him as being someone that reaches out to them or works with them. But Governor Beshear has been campaigning on some of the pieces of bipartisan legislation that he has supported, sports betting and medical cannabis. So it sounds like we have somebody that might be coming up.
It sounds like Daniel Cameron may be
concession speech potentially. Let's take a listen in from the Republican Watch Party.
Well, that didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it to. Well, look, it has been such an honor to run as the Republican nominee for governor and to run alongside someone who is the pride of Henderson County and the best dressed man I know. The fact that he runs a dry cleaners might have something to do with that. But Robbie Mills, it's been an honor. Thank you. I promised the governor I'd be brief, so I'll be brief tonight and say thank you all. Thank you so much for your willingness and commit to this campaign and this effort, an effort that was ultimately about our kids and our grandkids. And oftentimes when I'd go into counties and communities, I would bring the best campaigner I know with me, my wife, Mackenzie Cameron. Doesn't she look radiant tonight, I think? Yeah. But it's been an honor to be her husband. We've got a 22-month-old at home, and we've got another one on the way next spring. But whether it was Mackenzie or Vicki Mills or all of you all here, again, this was about future generations. And as I called the governor to congratulate him, I know from his perspective and from all of our perspectives that we all want the same thing for our future generations. We want a better Commonwealth, one in which it can ultimately be a shining city on a hill, a model and example for the rest of the nation to follow. And so as I did with Governor Beshear, I want all of us to think about what these next few decades will look like. And I ask that you pray for Governor Beshear and his team and for all of our Commonwealth, Because at the end of the day, win, lose, or draw, what ultimately matters is that we know that Christ is on the throne. Thanks, Mac. But that's what Mackenzie and I will return to. We'll return to trying to be the hands and feet of Christ. I know that you all will as well. We'll try to instill those principles in Theodore and the child that will be named at some point. We're still trying to figure that name out. But that's what it's about here on this earth, about leaving it better than you found it and giving a better future for your kids and your grandkids. So let us continue in that effort. Let us continue in that work. I want to thank my campaign team. I'm not going to name all of them, but I want to give a shout out to Terry Carmack, my big brother. Brandon Moody, who has been with me since the 2019 campaign. And the final member of the Troika, Scott Jennings. Thank you, my friend. And of course, I've got to give a shout out to my mom, who is a prayer warrior. So thank you to all of you. May God bless you, and God bless Kentucky. Thank you so much.
You were just listening to a concession speech from Daniel Cameron. Seemingly he said, "I promised the governor this would be brief." So that implies that he has already spoken with Andy Beshear, and likely we will hear from Beshear shortly. We, of course, have people there keeping their eyes on that for us, as well as a camera. So we will bring that to you if we do hear from Governor Beshear about winning a re-election.
And again, the timeline, if you're just jumping in, about 9 p.m. Eastern, the AP called the race for Andy Beshear. Daniel Cameron started his concession speech at 9:14 Eastern. He spoke for about 5 minutes, and we do think now the stage has been cleared for incumbent Governor Andy Beshear, who has been reelected to a second term, outperforming substantially what he did in 2019. And for people who characterize Aaron Kelly, his 2019 win is just, well, it was just Matt Bevin. After 4 years in office, he did even better. He did. He picked up supporters. He picked up supporters from the Republican Party, people that may have voted down ballot for somebody like Secretary of State Michael Adams. Voted for Governor Beshear. These numbers wouldn't be possible without that. He said, this didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it to, kind of cracked a joke at the beginning there, but said that he did call Governor Beshear to congratulate him and said that, we all want the same thing for our future generations, a better Commonwealth, and asked that everyone pray for Beshear and for his team and for our Commonwealth. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of ink spilled over the next couple of days and weeks and months here on, how this went poorly for Cameron and went so well for Beshear. One thing I was keeping my ear out for, trying to listen to with that Cameron concession speech, is if there were any hints at what could be next. Has he thought about that yet? No hints on that at this point. So it'll be interesting to see in the days and weeks to come what may be next for Daniel Cameron after he will be leaving that Attorney General post. And you wonder if there was any, obviously there's always going to be second guessing on the losing side of a political campaign. And you wonder if he had chosen a different running mate. I mean, Mario had the numbers earlier. Robbie Mills, not even close to winning his own home county of Henderson. He lost his home county, Robbie Mills, by 10 points to Beshear. Daniel Cameron didn't win Hardin County, which is his hometown. So maybe if you look at it that way, there was just nothing he could do in this situation. But running mate, campaign style, things that he chose to make important, questions he chose to answer, questions he quite frankly chose not to answer. There were a number of questions during the campaign that he was asked repeatedly that he just simply did not answer. You wonder if voters maybe held that against him. There will be, again, a lot of 2020 hindsight, I'm sure, as to how this campaign played out.
Sure, and just immediately we heard from Planned Parenthood Alliance advocates saying abortion turns out again winning Beshear a second term. So they're saying Kentuckians are rejecting what they call anti-abortion extremism. We saw with Amendment 2 last year that voters rejected what was a proposed amendment that was going to change the Constitution to say outright that there is no right to an abortion. This was immediately on the heels of the reversal of Roe v. Wade. So I think you're going to see people pointing to that as an issue. And we also talked about, before that speech, the issue of Senate Bill 150, anti-trans legislation that was vetoed by Beshear. And you saw Attorney General Cameron bring in somebody like Riley Gaines, who's been an outspoken critic of involving transgender athletes in female sports. So yeah.
Yeah, there's so many things that you wonder, and what lessons can be learned from this, not just for maybe a next election here in Kentucky, but on the national scene as well. Of course, this is 2023, and already the campaign trail is just so heating up for 2024. Tomorrow there's a presidential debate for GOP nominations, and so much steam really going on with 2024 in this. And as Mario has pointed out earlier in our newscast, in recent years at least, the Kentucky governor's race has almost served as a predecessor of what we see in the national election here, where we see whatever Kentucky does, whichever party that goes to, is what the national race goes to, the presidential election. Will that happen this time? Who knows what lessons came from this that don't apply to the presidential race? We'll have to find out, but it's definitely something analysts will be studying and keeping an eye on, trying to find out what motivated voters in more of a red state to re-elect a Democratic governor in Andy Beshear.
And again, we do have a crew at the Democratic Watch Party. The second Andy Beshear gets on stage, we will bring you his victory speech. Looking at the numbers now, with 87% of the votes in. I mean, we're still counting votes, but he has been projected as a winner. But 52.5% for Andy Beshear, and Daniel Cameron 47.5%. And we are being told someone is coming on stage now. I don't know if this is Beshear. A lot of times before this, they do a long introductory process. They have multiple speakers before the candidates,
Coleman.
but there's Lieutenant Governor Coleman. Let's listen in.
Thank you, Kentucky! Today, our Commonwealth came together. Democrats, Republicans, and independents, and elected the team that puts Kentucky families first.
Don't touch that.
Folks, we have gotten a lot done in our first 4 years. Record economic investment, the lowest unemployment ever, record budget surpluses. But there is so much more to do, and because of you, we are going to make that happen. As a teacher, I see the problems that we face through the lens of the kids in our classrooms. So we have to work together to make sure that all of our kids have everything that they need, because the future of our booming economy, it's in our classrooms today. I tried to tell them, when you attack public education in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, you will lose. There are so many thanks to give tonight. So many of you played such an important role in this victory. First, I got to thank the people of Kentucky for giving us another chance Next, I got to thank my family the people who made sacrifices so I could do this. Everybody on our campaign staff who helped guide us here, if you volunteered, if you knocked on a door, if you gave $1, you are part of this win. And last, but certainly not least, is a governor who chose a teacher as his running mate. Kentucky, it has not been an easy 4 years, but I watched him up close lead with empathy and compassion. I watched as Andy treated every Kentucky family like they were his own. And I watched him prove that it doesn't matter your zip code, your political party, or anything else, that he was gonna fight for you because you are a Kentuckian. It is my pleasure to introduce your friend, and our governor for 4 more years, Andy Beshear. He's such a hot shot.
Thank you, Kentucky! Tonight, Kentucky made a choice. A choice not to move to the right or to the left, but to move forward for every single family. A choice to reject Team R or Team D and to state clearly that we are one Team Kentucky. A choice of Jack Harlow over Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And tonight, the people of Kentucky elected me as just the third 2 consecutive term governor in our history. But folks, this wasn't my win. This was our victory. It was a victory that sends a loud, clear message. A message that candidates should run for something and not against someone. That a candidate should show vision and not sow division. And a clear statement that anger politics should end right here and right now. Just look at what we were up against. 5 super PACs. My opponent's super PAC, Mitch McConnell's super PAC, Rand Paul's super PAC, the Club for Growth, the Republican Governors Association, all running ads full of hate and division. And you know what? We beat them all at the same time. This election shows who we are as Kentuckians. We are a proud people who take care of each other. We believe in the golden rule that says we love our neighbor as ourselves, and the parable of the Good Samaritan that says we are all each other's neighbors, no exceptions. Our neighbors aren't just Democrats. They're not just Republicans. They're not just independents. Every single person is a child of God, and they are all our neighbor. We get through the hard times, and we get through them together. We get to the good times, and we get to them together. And wow, are we getting to them. Kentucky is on a historic win streak. The 2 best years of economic development in the history of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We're building the Brent Spence Companion Bridge without tolls. We're 4-laning the entire Mountain Parkway. And we're pushing I-69 forward so fast that Indiana's scrambling to catch up. We're bringing clean drinking water to our counties, and we are running high-speed internet access to every home in Kentucky. We're building the 2 biggest battery plants on planet Earth. And the cleanest, greenest recycled paper mill in this country. We have record high budget surpluses and record low unemployment. We've created almost 50,000 new jobs, $27.8 billion in new private sector investments. So tonight, I stand here excited and optimistic about what we're going to do these next 4 years together. Over these next 4 years, it's time for a couple things. First, it's time to get our educators the big pay raise they deserve. It's time for universal pre-K for every Kentucky child. We're going to keep attracting new jobs and new industries, building our workforce, building the Kentucky we have always dreamed of. And it's amazing that we're here because we have been through a lot together. Devastating tornadoes in the west, historic flooding in the east. And after each, I made a promise that I would help rebuild every home and every life. And thanks to the people of Kentucky, and thanks to this election, we're going to see that promise through. I pledge tonight to continue to be a governor who serves all our people, regardless of your party and regardless of who you voted for. These next 4 years, we have an opportunity to come further together. This is our chance to build that Commonwealth we have always dreamed of, to stop the fighting, to push away the division, to recognize that we have more that unites us that can ever pull us apart, and that the opportunity right in front of us is more promising than at any time in our lifetimes. I have a lot of thank yous. First, to my parents. To Steve and Jane Beshear, thank you for all your support, your service, and your leadership. I love you. To my wife, Brittany. And to my kids, Will and Lila. You are the reason I do this, but you're the reason I do everything. I love you all so much. Hadley is here tonight. She is a brave young woman who came forward to share her story, to speak for so many that couldn't speak for themselves. And because of her courage, this Commonwealth is going to be a better place, and people are going to reach out for the help they need. Thank you, Hadley. Thanks to my close friends here tonight, and I just want to take a minute to recognize that we've lost some incredible people recently who stood on a similar stage with us just 4 years ago. I know they're smiling down. I know they're so pleased at where we're going. And I know they know that we love them and that we will see them again. I want to say thank you to every volunteer and field organizer that did the hard work of knocking doors. See, it's that type of energy that helped us win. I want to thank the entire campaign staff and my campaign manager, Eric Hires, who ran a perfect race. And I want to say a huge thank you to the official Commonwealth of Kentucky staff. Not just everyone in the governor's office, but every single state employee. The work that they do every day is why we are at this special place in our history. I love serving on Team Kentucky with each and every one of those state employees. And we have an opportunity now, not for 4, but for 8 years that'll set up decades of prosperity. I know that every day I have left as governor is special. That every day we have left working together is a day to improve the lives of our fellow Kentuckians. I love this Commonwealth. And I'm going to work as hard as I can for each and every one of you. So from the Beshear family to every Kentucky family, we love you, good night, and God bless.
You've been watching live coverage here on Spectrum News 1 as Decision 2023 comes almost to a close. The final speech of the night, the victory speech for incumbent Governor Andy Beshear, re-elected. I'm Lachlan McLean, joined on set by Amber Smith, Mario Anderson, and Aaron Kelly. And we were talking during the speech. He was kind of playing the greatest hits, things we've heard during the campaign trail. But honestly, both Beshear and Cameron look fatigued. It has been a tough campaign.
They have been grinding it out. I mean, both of them had bus tours crisscrossing the state. It was hard to keep track of who was where. Just even last night, I think they both had events at 9 o'clock that probably went even later. So definitely he sounds relieved. He sounds happier than I've ever heard him.
Yeah, and the campaign's been going on for over a year now. It seems like for both Andy Beshear, but also Daniel Cameron, but also all the statewide candidates running for office. But yeah, Andy Beshear, he won in 2019 by just over 5,000 votes. But so far, we're seeing that he's up over 62,000 votes in this election cycle. So he was able to improve those vote margins across the state, not just in certain pockets. He was able to have more widespread wins. And so it's very unique. Again, we talked about this all night long, that he only won 23 counties in 2019, his first time running. But this time he's got over 30 plus counties that are leaning Democrat as those final votes are still coming in. So big night for the Beshear campaign, and obviously they're now preparing for the next 4 years. But the most immediate plans are for preparing for the inauguration ceremonies that will be happening in Frankfort in December. December the 12th is the date. It's a Tuesday, so we'll have more details on that. But a lot of activity across the state, and excitement or sadness, depending on which candidates you were supporting.
And you really heard Governor Andy Beshear there speaking about how he wants to be the governor for all of Kentucky, whether you typically vote for a Republican, vote for a Democrat, red or blue, I think was his exact terminology there. It's something we've heard from him on the campaign trail, of course, playing on the typical Team Kentucky catchphrase that he really made popular during the coronavirus pandemic and has kept through, more so to rebrand that for economic development, something that he touched on a lot, as Lachlan said, really touching on a lot of the things we've been hearing all throughout the campaign trail, but trying to make good on his promise to be a governor for all of Kentucky. But it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out, as once again, we do have a legislative session coming up. He has legislative priorities, but in the end, it is a Republican supermajority in the Kentucky legislature. So, he can easily, anything he vetoes, it could get overridden if they have enough support. So,
and the Republican leaders, I know Aaron was on the phone with the Republican leaders, and they've got their full plan of legislative priorities that don't include anything that Andy Beshear is wanting to propose.
Budget year?
Yeah, budget year. So there might be a lot of even more contention in Frankfort that now that Andy Beshear has won 4 more years, well, the legislature may make strides to say, well, congratulations on your win, but we're taking the next steps as it relates to legislation. But also Governor Beshear, he's 45 years old, and a lot of people do want to know what is the next steps. But he's already said in many recent interviews that he intends to fulfill the entire 4 years as governor, no matter what happens in other areas of government opportunities out there. So we shall see if he still remains to that commitment or not. But all eyes on Andy Beshear and the next steps for his administration.
And certainly the Daniel Cameron campaign will be trying to figure out how he lost this race in such a heavily Republican state. If you listen to Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman, she made it about education. She said, when you attack public education in Kentucky, you will lose. Andy Beshear said it was about trying to be too partisan. He said anger politics ends here. Aaron mentioned earlier in the evening, abortion could be an issue. There's transgender rights. I mean, we're going to go through a lot of different things. In the end, there's never going to be one thing that causes a candidate to win or lose. But I think most of us agree, and the pundits agree, people just got to know Andy Beshear over 4 years, the power of that incumbency during all those COVID speeches. The Republicans wanted to use COVID against him. Right. And in the end, the gains he made with the populace by being on their TV screen every day for over a year may be too much to overcome.
You heard Attorney General Cameron over and over criticize how Beshear handled, the COVID-19 pandemic, shutdowns and, virtual learning and things like that. And it doesn't sound like that, really cost him. It's more that, he, as one Democrat put it, we feel like we know him, because of just how often he was speaking to people in their homes during the pandemic when there was a lot of uncertainty. And also, the disasters that the state has seen in eastern and western part of the states, those deadly tornadoes and deadly flooding. He was there on the ground. He has the support of the mayor of Mayfield in this campaign. She was in one of his ads. But also he just kept talking about, this is about a vision versus division, and calling Attorney General Cameron a really partisan candidate. We heard that in the debates come up as well.
And don't forget, too, that Andy Beshear, he served as Attorney General for 4 years as well. So he's been in the limelight. He has served in the executive branch. But then, his dad, obviously, I know you mentioned earlier that Steve Beshear, who we heard from there, he was in office for 2 terms as well. So that Beshear family name has been around in Kentucky for about 40 years or so. And so a lot of Kentuckians who are familiar with the Beshear name. But then for this particular election cycle, Andy Beshear kind of wanted to rebrand it as, I'm just Andy. Of course, I'm the Beshear fan, but you just know me as Andy. You saw me on your TV screens. I was there, been with you for many years. And again, that's what a lot of the themes were in his messages during his victory speech tonight.
And he mentioned during his speech that he's just the third 2 consecutive term governor in Kentucky history. And you do wonder how much of that could be because of all the national attention. It wasn't long after he took office that we were in the COVID-19 pandemic, where he was on people's screens every day giving them updates during what was an isolating and scary time, whether they agreed with his closures or not. He was there and he was visible during that, as well as during the Western Kentucky tornadoes, the Eastern Kentucky flooding, and then really in this last year has shifted focus to major economic developments. And we've seen a lot of national attention around all of those things that I just mentioned and his handling of that, as well as national attention from the Biden administration coming in with things that he talked about in this speech, like the Brent Spence Bridge project and other infrastructure projects. So really, he's had a lot of national attention, which does make you wonder what could be next after the governor's, the governor's mansion. What could be next for Andy Beshear? He's certainly had national exposure if he has any of those aspirations.
And we should mention President Biden did call Governor Beshear tonight to congratulate him. And so that profile will continue to rise. Now, if you want to read more about the campaign and the down ballot races, of course, we have that coverage on our website, SpectrumNews1.com. The results from all the races. Again, Beshear wins at the top of the ticket, but Republicans win every other race tonight. You can see all those vote totals again at SpectrumNews1.com. And we will continue our live coverage of Decision 2023, plus your weather on the ones after a quick time out.
It could be cliche, but my old Kentucky home is a real thing. That's something that people who are passing through, you can just kind of sense that sense of community or sense of pride. It's because of them that I get involved. I'm not a fan of being on the sidelines. It's those values that drive me every day. I want to connect with people. I want to inform people. I want to educate people. I've lived here my entire life, and I've traveled across the entire state, and I'm proud to call Kentucky my home.
Hi, I wanted to get the mobile deal I saw on the sign. Sure, if you're getting 4 lines. Oh, I don't need 4 lines.
Well, then you can't get that deal. But imagine what you could do with 4 lines. You can have one to call your lawyer. What? Embezzlement. Or you can use one to call your boss. Quick question. How do I tell someone if they're not getting 4 lines that each is going to cost more? Yeah, I don't think she looks happy. No, not yet. She's going to lose her mind. You tell her.
You know what? I'm good.
T-Mobile is selling it. Don't buy it.
Didn't work.
For one fair price, no matter how many lines you need, choose Spectrum Mobile.
This is a message from the Secret Service.
SMS texting, also known as smishing, is a tactic used to steal financial information, elicit funds, or install malware on smartphones. To protect yourself, never respond to a text or click a link from an unknown source. Never share personal or financial information. Delete text messages from unknown sources. The government will never solicit personal information via text. To learn more, visit us online. From all of us at the Secret Service, be vigilant and stay safe.
At Spectrum News 1, we aim to bring you news that matters in your community.
We ensure you have everything you need to know, including the latest forecast before you head out the door.
Plus, stories that inspire from across the Commonwealth.
Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Kayla Moody.
And I'm Mario Anderson.
Your morning news, weekdays starting at 5 on Spectrum News 1. Also available on the Spectrum News app. Exclusively on Spectrum.
had a pretty nice start to the work week, including some mild temperatures. We're going to be even warmer now as we go into our Wednesday. And part of the reason we're going to be so warm here for Hump Day, the winds are really going to be kicking up out of the south. Pretty gusty during the midday and afternoon. Then going into our Thursday night, we're going to see a chance for some rain, especially the farther south you go. By that point in time, though, the front's already be pushed through, so it'll be a cooler day on Thursday, and that'll set the stage for a cooler, almost chillier end of the work week, and also for the weekend ahead as well. But temperature trend shows you we're going to be well above average here on Wednesday, but getting back very close to normal as we head into the upcoming weekend and into early parts of next week. So although it will be cooler, it's not going to be anything close to some cold temperatures that we could be seeing this time of the year. Here's your forecast overnight. It'll be a mild night, falling back into the 50s to low 60s under a partly to mostly cloudy sky. Those temperatures are well above average for this time of the year, between 15 and 20 degrees above average. So it's going to be a very mild night out there. Let's go ahead and take a look at our Wednesday morning. We may start off with some cloud cover across the area, but by the midday and afternoon, I think we see a lot of sunshine. Those winds really get kicking out of the south-southwest, and our temperatures are going to soar with highs easily into the 70s, and I think some spots hit the 80s, including the Louisville area. That's why we're forecasting a possible record for the day. All that sunshine and gusty winds out of the south bump those temperatures up nicely for the afternoon. Here's your highs: 79 LaGrange, 81 Louisville, 80 Radcliffe, 81 Scottsburg, and with some potential to be even warmer than this. So that's why I think there's a record possibly being broken coming up on Wednesday. But like I said, the winds will be pretty gusty out there. It could have some winds gusting over 30 miles per hour at times. That's nothing too significant, but enough it could make driving high-profile vehicles a little bit difficult and certainly blow those fallen leaves around. Going into our Thursday night, as the front pushes south, the disturbance rides up along that front. That'll bring some chillier rain to the area, but again, the better chance will be the farther south you go, so not everyone's going to see a lot of rain with this system. Here's your 7-day forecast. Going into Friday, I think we'll see a few very, very early showers wrapping up quickly. A much cooler day on Friday, 60 for a high. And then look at the weekend on Veterans Day, 58 for a high. Looking sunny, though, 59 on Sunday. And then temperatures moderate a little bit by early next week, back in the low 60s Monday and Tuesday. And really not looking at any rain chances here for either Saturday or Sunday.
Thanks for staying with us for live Decision 2023 coverage here on Spectrum News 1. I'm Amber Smith, joined by Mario Anderson, Lachlan McLean, and Aaron Kelly. We've been out here all night keeping an eye on all of the races. They have now all been called, to anyone catching up. Governor Andy Beshear won re-election, and all of the down-ballot races for statewide offices went to the Republicans in those races. And we've been just really playing speeches throughout the night.
Yeah, we heard victory speeches from every winning candidate and concession speeches from Daniel Cameron. Again, a bittersweet night for the Republicans. They'd hoped to sweep all the races. They won all of them except for arguably the most important one. Let's hear from the winner tonight in the governor's race, incumbent Governor Andy Beshear, after he took the victory.
This election shows who we are as Kentuckians. We are a proud people who take care of each other. We believe in the golden rule that says we love our neighbor as ourselves, and the parable of the Good Samaritan that says we are all each other's neighbors, no exceptions. Our neighbors aren't just Democrats. They're not just Republicans. They're not just independents. Every single person is a child of God, and they are all our neighbor. We get through the hard times, and we get through them together. We get to the good times, and we get to them together. And wow, are we getting to them.
And that was Andy Beshear. We heard from him shortly after we heard from Daniel Cameron, who gave a concession speech. Here's what he had to say about the results.
Thank you so much for your willingness and commit to this campaign and this effort. An effort that was ultimately about our kids and our grandkids. Again, this was about future generations. And as I called the governor to congratulate him, I know from his perspective and from all of our perspectives that we all want the same thing for our future generations. We want a better Commonwealth, one in which it can ultimately be a shining city on a hill, a model and example for the rest of the nation to follow. And so, as I did with Governor Beshear, I want all of us to think about what these next few decades will look like.
And that was Attorney General Daniel Cameron conceding to Governor Andy Beshear, who's going to maintain his spot in the governor's mansion. He said he wanted to not change the coach. Team Kentucky, in his mind, keeps its coach tonight.
Definitely keeping that messaging.
And Daniel Cameron, he'll serve another few weeks as Attorney General in his capacity there, and then he will take some time off. He's got the 2 young kids, and we'll see what happens next for Daniel Cameron and his next moves.
Well, not 2 yet. One on the way.
One on the way,
but
right.
In the spring. But there you go. And, of course, you can get more coverage of tonight's events on our website, SpectrumNews1.com. Also, download the free Spectrum News mobile app to get that coverage on your phone. We appreciate you watching. We've got more coming up for you as our coverage of Decision 2023 continues.
If you're dreaming of the perfect deck, make it a reality with Lexington Deck Supplies and Decadent Designs. We're passionate about our decks, and it shows in our award-winning designs. We specialize in outdoor living spaces, from decks and porches to rails and pergolas. We work with only the best materials, like...
This is living proof that there can be life beyond cancer. At Baptist Health, we've treated more patients with breast, colon, and lung cancer than any other health system in Kentucky and southern Indiana. Early detection can help lead to better outcomes. To find out more about our cancer risk assessments and early screening options, visit baptisthealth.com/cancercare.
At Baptist Health, we want you to know the facts. Visit BaptistHealthDocs.com to view a video of Dr. Murali Kolakanda on telehealth for rural stroke patients. Baptist Health Lexington. Be a healthier you.
For moderate to severe Crohn's disease, Skyrizi is the first IL-23 inhibitor that can deliver remission and visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine, or plan to. Liver problems may occur in Crohn's disease.
Control of Crohn's means everything to me. Ask your gastroenterologist about Skyrizi.
Control is everything to me.
Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
Today it's far less. Yet 80% of people with disabilities, just like me, are still out of work. It's time we stopped focusing on what people can't do and invest in what they can do. People with disabilities are persistent, driven, and capable. It's time to look closer at how we hire. Visit nod.org/lookcloser.
It's 10 o'clock. This check of the time presented by Spectrum One.
Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday, Election Day. I'm Lachlan McLean.
And I'm Amber Smith, here with a look at your Spectrum News in 90. And as he said, it is election night here in Kentucky and across the nation. Hundreds of thousands of Kentuckians have cast their ballots. But despite record early voting numbers, the Secretary of State's office estimates just a 42% voter turnout for the general election.
To celebrate Veterans Day, the National Park Service is offering free admission this Saturday, waiving entrance fees to parks here in the Commonwealth. That includes Mammoth Cave, Big South Fork, Lincoln's birthplace, and more.
And the University of Kentucky unveiled an updated design for the basketball court at Rupp Arena. It features a new outline of the state under the UK logo at half court. It's expected to be installed next month.
Our stretch of mild weather continues here during the overnight. Temperatures only falling back into the 50s and 60s by morning under a partly to mostly cloudy sky. On Wednesday, we're talking about near record or even record warmth. Highs in the upper 70s to lower 80s all across the Commonwealth. Now, Wednesday night into Thursday, a small chance for a shower as the front rolls through. That'll bring us some cooler weather for Thursday as highs only top out in the 60s for most areas. That's your news in 90.
Well, Well, it was an eventful election night here in the Commonwealth.
And let's take a look at the results. The result that everyone was keeping their eyes on, some across the nation, the governor's race in the state of Kentucky. And it goes to incumbent Democrat Andy Beshear. Wins the race over Attorney General Daniel Cameron. Beshear outperforming his results from 2019 when he won by just 5,000 votes over Matt Bevin. Considerably better this time around. And here's what Beshear had to say after his victory.
This election shows who we are as Kentuckians. We are a proud people who take care of each other. We believe in the golden rule that says we love our neighbor as ourselves, and the parable of the Good Samaritan that says we are all each other's neighbors, no exceptions. Our neighbors aren't just Democrats. They're not just Republicans. They're not just independents. Every single person is a child of God, and they are all our neighbor. We get through the hard times, and we get through them together. We get to the good times, and we get to them together. And wow, are we getting to them.
And Andy Beshear defeated current Attorney General Daniel Cameron in that race for the governor's office, maintaining his second term. But we did hear from Cameron giving his concession speech shortly before we heard from Beshear. Here's what Cameron had to say.
Thank you so much for your willingness and commit to this campaign and this effort. An effort that was ultimately about our kids and our grandkids. Again, this was about future generations. And as I called the governor to congratulate him, I know from his perspective and from all of our perspectives that we all want the same thing for our future generations. We want a better Commonwealth, one in which it can ultimately be a shining city on a hill, a model and example for the rest of the nation to follow. And so as I did with Governor Beshear, I want all of us to think about what these next few decades will look like.
And again, that was Daniel Cameron in his concession speech. And Amber, you know, the polling data throughout the course of the campaign showed Andy Beshear ahead fairly comfortably. Then there was that one last poll that showed it was a dead heat. It turns out that was an outlier and quite frankly inaccurate because Beshear won fairly comfortably.
And going into the night, there were a couple of key counties that a lot of people had their eyes on that Beshear won in the last election in 2019 that he needed to maintain leads in. We're going to send it over to Mario Anderson, who's been monitoring those results at the touch screen, who can give us a bit of a county-by-county breakdown. Hey, Mario.
Hey, Lachlan and Amber, and yes, we talked about all night long that in 2019, Andy Beshear, during his first run for Kentucky governor, he only was able to get 23 counties, a nice 3 there, but then for the election night, he was able to get 30 plus counties across Kentucky. You can see our map that shows the red is in favor of Daniel Cameron, the Republican nominee, but then the blue, you can see, is for Andy Beshear. And yes, as Amber did mention, we'll show you some of the counties that we are showing on our screen. We'll start actually in northern Kentucky area, and you'll see Boone County, which Beshear did not win in 2019. He was able to pick that up, Daniel Cameron was able to pick that up, but then neighboring Kenton and Campbell counties in northern Kentucky, they both went blue for Andy Beshear during this 2023 election cycle. If we go down to central Kentucky, we talked about early in the night, we're going to be watching Scott County and Madison County and those areas, and you can see on your screen that not just Scott County and Madison County, but multiple counties within central Kentucky went for Andy Beshear. We'll also show you some parts of western Kentucky where, again, not a lot of blue on this map for western Kentucky, not expected based off of the voting trends, but you can see that there are some blue areas where Andy Beshear was able to pick up wins in Henderson, which is the home county, home city of the lieutenant governor nominee for the Republican side, Robbie Mills. Andy Beshear was able to pick up that area, that county there, and then also neighboring next door of Henderson and Davis County, where Owensboro is. The Beshear campaign was able to pick up that win as well. But then also we're in western Kentucky area where the tornadoes happened in 2021 in Graves Reeves County. That area went, as it has traditionally gone in years past, Republican. But if you look over in eastern Kentucky where the flooding happened, historic flooding back in 2022, you can see those blue counties here. A lot of blue for Governor Andy Beshear as he picked up these counties here. Breathitt County area. Also, you'll see on the map as we pull that up for you, other counties, Letcher County, all went in favor of the Democratic incumbent Governor Andy Beshear. So lots of blue, more counties for this 2023 race that Andy Beshear has picked up to have 4 more years in the governor's mansion and having re-election. So a lot to continue to develop and track, and we'll always do that here on Spectrum News 1. We'll send that back to you, Lachlan and Amber.
All right, Mario, thank you. And we want to give you a breakdown of how all of the other statewide races went tonight. First, starting with Attorney General, that went for Russell Coleman, the Republican. He is a former U.S. Attorney for the Western District.
In the Secretary of State's race, I guess we're going to Agriculture Commissioner now from Garrett County. Jonathan Schell wins Ag Commissioner at the age of 35.
And taking a look at the Treasurer race, that went to Mark Metcalf. He's the Garrett County Attorney.
And I don't know if it's on our screen or not, but Secretary of State Michael Adams was easily reelected there. So basically, the Republicans win all the down ballot races. The Democrat, Andy Beshear, wins the top race, the governor's mansion, for 4 more years.
And one more to mention, the auditor race went to Allison Ball, the current treasurer, who was term limited in that role and then went for the auditor's race as well. So a near Republican sweep minus the governor's race, which obviously went to incumbent Governor Andy Beshear.
And of course, you can see continuing coverage of Decision 2023, how the voting shook down and everything else on our website. That is SpectrumNews1.com. Go there and peruse the results and see any race you want. You can also get that coverage by downloading the free Spectrum News mobile app. We'll have more coverage after this. Thanks for watching Spectrum News.
From mountain towns to farmlands, we're expanding our network into rural and underserved communities, connecting areas where no one has built before. That's because we're committed to providing high-speed internet to more people than ever. We're dedicated to delivering the best services, since we count on them too. Our commitment is as local as it gets. We're Spectrum, the #1 rural internet provider in the nation, connecting the places we all call home.
Looking for a new place to visit or stay on your next trip to the Red River Gorge? Discover the small-town charm of Mount Sterling, Kentucky, just northwest of the Red River Gorge area. Comfortable hotels with modern amenities and a bright and bold historic downtown. Spend the day shopping friendly merchants, visiting the Arts Center, and eating local with us. Booth Hunt Candy is celebrating 100 years of handmade treats, including their Woodford Reserve Bourbon Balls. Mount Sterling is a great jumping-off point for all the outdoor adventures in eastern Kentucky. Visit mtsterlingtourism.com to plan your trip today.
Spectrum delivers the fastest internet and Wi-Fi download speeds in the nation. Now, upgrade to Spectrum Internet Ultra for just $20 more per month, and you get 1 line of Spectrum Mobile Unlimited free for 12 months. That's right. Upgrade to Spectrum Internet Ultra with speeds of 500 megabits per second, and get a Spectrum Mobile Unlimited line with nationwide 5G included free for 12 months. Call 855-205-6272. Go online or visit a Spectrum store today.
Spectrum Mobile is giving you 1 free mobile line when you buy 1 unlimited line for $29.99.
So I can get 2 lines for the price of 1? That's right, for just $29.99.
It's the best deal in mobile.
But is the service reliable?
Absolutely. Spectrum Mobile is super reliable, coast to coast. Get 1 line for $29.99 and the second line is free.
All with no taxes or hidden fees.
Switch to Spectrum Mobile Unlimited for $29.99 a month and get a second unlimited line free for 12 months. Call 1-844-882-2999.
Hi, Shane Huffman with the Neil Huffman Automotive Group, where currently we have hundreds of pre-owned vehicles, all aggressively priced, coming with our 3-year certified maintenance. You can visit us today at neilhuffman.com. Huffman has it.
that November chill has been missing for several days now across the Ohio Valley. We had another high temperature in the mid-70s on Tuesday, very similar to what we saw on Monday as well. And we weren't too cool over the weekend, too. We had highs in the middle to upper 60s. It's been very mild lately, and that pattern is going to last with us here as we go into our Wednesday. In fact, probably warmer here on Wednesday than what it was Monday or Tuesday. So warm, in fact, we could be talking about a new record high. The record for the day is 77. The forecast high is 80 degrees. So I think we're pretty good chances here of breaking that record coming up on Wednesday for the daily record high. Mostly cloudy skies here overnight, very mild. In fact, our low temperatures are actually closer to our average highs for this time of the year. Right now we're calling for a low in the middle to upper 50s. Forecast for the bus stop coming up on Wednesday as many of the kids may be going back to school after having the day off on Election Day on Tuesday. Upper 50s, 6 o'clock. We're in the mid 60s by 9 o'clock. And we'll have a south-southeast breeze at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Now, changes do come our way here toward the end of the week. Cold front swings in, bringing in some cooler air for the end of the week, but also some rain chances with a better chance for rain coming our way here Thursday night, and maybe some of those showers linger into Friday as well, but it will be a big change coming up here this weekend compared to how warm it's been over the last several days. In fact, we'll take a longer look at what's ahead for the weekend in your 7-day forecast and talk more about those rain chances coming up in your next Weather on the Ones.
A new study now looking into one of the biggest topics during campaign season, abortion access. That research found states with strict abortion laws are seeing more children entering the foster care system. The study found in states with certain restrictive abortion laws, the number of children whose parents couldn't or wouldn't care for them has increased. Researchers found there was an 11% jump in children placed in foster care in states following the enactment of certain abortion restrictions called TRAP laws, compared to states without such abortion restrictions. The Supreme Court is set to hear an appeal on a gun ownership case today. An appeals court previously ruled in favor of Zackey Rahimi. He is challenging a federal gun law that bars people subject to domestic violence restraining orders from owning a gun. Rahimi is currently in prison for owning guns after a violent altercation with his girlfriend. He has also taken part in 5 different shooting incidents in Texas. That has led some Second Amendment advocates to say he's not the ideal face to challenge the law. Rahimi himself issued a letter over the summer saying he no longer wanted to own firearms and plans to turn his life around when he is released.
The state's largest utility company is making a move away from coal-powered plants, planning to shut down 2 of them in the state. LG&E and Kentucky Utilities will retire the coal-fired plants and replace them with a new natural gas facility. The company had been working to get the Public Service Commission to let them shutter those plants, and they got that approval last night. Now, initially, plans were for 2 natural gas plants, but only 1 was approved. LG&E did get approval for a new solar farm in Mercer County as well. They say that'll become the largest energy efficiency program in the company's history. And Blue Oval SK is opening an office space in Elizabethtown in Hardin County that will serve as, in part, a recruiting center for people interested in working at the upcoming electric battery plant in Glendale. The company will host a job fair at that recruitment center next Tuesday, the 14th, for interested applicants to ask questions and learn about job opportunities at Blue Oval. The fair will be at 2323 Ring Road from 3:30 to 6 p.m. next Tuesday. The Blue Oval SK battery plant is under construction now. It's set to begin production in 2025. For more information, visit blueovalsk.com.
Some bank customers still haven't received their direct deposit paychecks after a human error in America's banking system last week. The deposit delays are linked to a problem that emerged Friday with the automated clearinghouse payment system, causing headaches for consumers and employers. Banks stressed to customers that all funds are secure. The payments that did not go through late last week had to be resent, a process that can take time. The Clearinghouse, the private operator of ACH, said it is working with banks and the Federal Reserve to resolve the issue ASAP. Clearinghouse is calling it a manual error.
Starbucks employees are getting a pay raise next year. The company announced Monday that non-union employees will get at least a 3% pay bump starting January 1st. Non-union employees will also be eligible to accrue more vacation time sooner. Unionized employees will get pay raises that were locked in last year, which vary. They will not be eligible for vacation benefits. This all comes just a little over a month after a National Labor Relations Board judge ruled that Starbucks violated federal labor law when it increased wages only for non-union employees. The company is appealing that decision. Heading into the busy holiday travel season, the CDC is expanding its infectious disease surveillance program at 4 major U.S. airports to now test for more than 30 pathogens, including flu and RSV. The surveillance program began back in 2021 to track COVID variants, collecting nasal swabs from volunteer travelers and analyzing wastewater from certain flights. For travelers who are hitting the road this holiday season, the CDC recommends taking a few easy steps to keep you and your family healthy.
Basic things like hand washing are really always good measures, not touching your face, carrying alcohol-based hand sanitizer if you're not going to be able to wash your hands.
According to data from the CDC, the rate of COVID-19 hospitalizations remains steady while flu season is ticking up slightly throughout the country.
United Airlines is bracing for what's anticipated to be a record-breaking Thanksgiving travel period. United is the first of the major U.S. airlines to release its forecast for the upcoming holiday. The airline says it will carry more passengers this Thanksgiving holiday than ever before. United's forecast estimates 5.9 million passengers will fly on its planes. The airline also predicts the travel period will be longer than ever this year, with the spread over 11 days. It expects the Sunday after Thanksgiving to be the busiest. Still to come, while the focus today is on Decision 2023, we are already looking ahead to next year's presidential race. We'll preview tomorrow's debate for GOP candidates and see where things stand for the Republican ticket.
Temperatures are running well above average over the next couple of days, but we do have a cool down moving in for the later part of the week. I'll let you know if we will keep the cool air around into the weekend, coming up next in your Weather on the Ones.
Kentucky Farm Bureau agents wear a lot of hats. They're coaches, volunteers, church members, neighbors, someone who's there when you need them, especially when you need them most. That may be a lot of hats, but they're all the perfect fit. Kentucky Farm Bureau, big on commitment.
This is living proof that cancer doesn't have to be the end and that there is always hope. To find out more about our cancer risk assessments and early screening options, visit baptisthealth.com/cancercare.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
One of the deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history at Post nightclub in Orlando.
Walking into the building for the first time after the shooting, it was crippling, but it had to be preserved. If you're an ally of this community, speak out. There are more of us together than apart. It is the power of love in its rawest form.
If you want to grow your business, you need advertising that moves. Moves to where your audience is watching. And moves your customers to take action. Spectrum Reach has the solutions you need to connect with the right customers the right number of times across any screen, so you can be sure you're getting results and getting the most from your advertising dollar. Because advertising that moves is advertising that works. Go to SpectrumReach.com to connect with a local advertising expert today.
We've had a pretty nice start to the work week out there, including some very mild temperatures. And we're going to be even warmer coming up here on Wednesday. And one of the reasons for the warm temperatures coming up here on Wednesday will be some gusty south-southwest winds, which will drive those temperatures up in the afternoon. Pretty quiet going into our Wednesday night and Thursday, but later Thursday night, we'll see a better chance for some rain across the area. I think especially the farther south you go, that rain chance increases. Then temperatures really start to fall by the Friday, and especially going into the upcoming weekend as well. In fact, your temperature trend shows that dip. Thursday, cooler, but much chillier here by Friday into the weekend. Just a little bit below average, though. Nothing terribly cold, but it'll be a big change of pace compared to the warm temperatures we've been enjoying here lately. Forecast overnight, though, very mild temperatures, only falling back into the 50s for overnight lows. That'll be between 15 and 20 degrees above average for this time of the year. So it's going to feel a little bit more like our average highs for this time of the year instead of our low temperatures. Into our Wednesday, I think we'll start off with quite a bit of cloud cover, but as we go through the day, as the front lifts north, lots of sunshine, then the winds start getting gusty out of the south-southwest, and temperatures are going to soar tremendously throughout the day. Here's your forecast planner. Almost 70 by 10 o'clock, easily the 70s in the afternoon, with some spots getting into the 80s. Here's your highs. 80 Lexington, same thing for Mount Vernon. 81 Somerset, 81 Jackson, 79 in Moorhead, and there's a possibility we could be even warmer than that. When we have strong southwest winds this time of the year and sunshine, it can really drive those temperatures up quite a bit. And those winds could be gusting, I think, over 30 miles per hour at times during the afternoon, so might provide a little bit of difficulty, high-profile vehicle driving, and certainly blowing those leaves around as well, but that's about it. As far as our next rain chance goes, could see a few showers Thursday as the front works through. I think a better chance Thursday night as a disturbance rides up along that front. But I think the better rain chances will be the farther south you go. So not everyone's going to see a lot of rain, but there will be some pretty wet conditions, I believe, Thursday night into very early Friday morning. And again, mainly the farther south you go. So here's your 7-day forecast. 67 on Thursday, a few very early morning showers as the front passes by. Then the disturbance rides up along that front Thursday night. A few showers possible early Friday. But look at the temperatures tumbling. Highs only in the 50s coming up here on Veterans Day on Saturday and Sunday. A dry weekend ahead, though, and then temperatures a little bit up for Monday and Tuesday. High 57 Monday, 60 on Tuesday.
5 Republican presidential candidates will meet tomorrow in Miami for the third debate of the primary campaign, and for a third straight time, former President Donald Trump will be a no-show.
Spectrum News national political reporter Taylor Popolars is outside the debate venue in Miami with the latest.
Poll after poll shows former President Donald Trump is the overwhelming frontrunner for the Republican nomination, and he won't be on the debate stage here in Miami. So the overarching question heading into this third debate is, does it even matter? We asked election analyst Kyle Kondik.
It only matters to the extent that Trump falls off at some point, because if Trump's support evaporates, then someone has got to be there to pick up that support.
But so far, Trump's support remains strong among the GOP base, despite being indicted 4 times and his refusal to debate. Wednesday's debate here in Miami will feature these 5 candidates: former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, and South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. Haley has seen her stock rise in recent weeks thanks to strong performances in the first 2 debates and questions over whether DeSantis should remain the clear Trump alternative he entered the race as. But the Florida governor did earn the coveted endorsement of Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds on Monday. She argued he's the one Iowa Republicans should caucus for in January.
Someone who calls out our moral decline for what it is, who looks to the future and not the past. Someone who, most importantly, can win. And that person is Ron DeSantis.
Although Trump won't be on the debate stage, he will be holding a campaign rally as counter-programming just 12 miles from here. Kyle Kondik told us this series of debates has been among the least impactful in recent presidential primary history because of Trump's absence and his status as the overwhelming frontrunner. Now the question is whether this debate will change that. Reporting in Miami, Taylor Popolars, Spectrum News.
Taylor, thank you. And after that debate tomorrow, be sure to tune in here to Spectrum News 1, where we are going to have a full breakdown of the night, including immediate reactions to the candidates who set themselves apart and more. That special coverage begins tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 Central. We're taking a look at some skies over the Maker's Mark Distillery in Marion County today. A beautiful election day across the Commonwealth. While these warm temps continue into Wednesday, the weather on the ones is coming up.
And to get that forecast anytime you want on your phone or mobile device, just download the free Spectrum News mobile app. Point your phone at the QR code. It's totally free and a fantastic resource. Again, weather anytime you want, plus watch our coverage live, get headlines, and so much more. We're back in just a bit here on Spectrum News 1.
It was a beautiful election day across the Commonwealth, especially warm considering we're already in November. Whether this warm trend continues into Wednesday, coming up in your weather on the ones.
In patriotism. We believe in our nation's youth. We believe veterans earn their benefits through their service to our nation. We believe in a strong national security. We believe in our country. For 100 years, veterans have been impacting our nation through the American Legion, and we believe it makes a difference. If you believe, learn more at legion.org/webelieve.
Want to get the most out of one sheet? Grab Bounty. Bounty is made to be stronger and more absorbent. So while ordinary brands can't hold up, one sheet of Bounty keeps working even when wet. Now that's the sound of value. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Want to reach more customers and grow your business? It starts here with the Spectrum Reach Ad Portal. The Ad Portal is an affordable self-service platform that lets small businesses advertise on TV and streaming. Just choose your goal, find the right audience for your business, choose a package to get the best mix of shows for your budget, and create a commercial in minutes like you've never seen or heard before. Thanks to our AI creative technology, start reaching more customers today with the Spectrum Reach Ad Portal.
I was diagnosed at 65.
37. Earlier than most.
Every 9 minutes, someone is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
And every one of them can turn to the American Parkinson Disease Association. Visit apdaparkinson.org to learn more and show your support today.
Thanks for joining us. 1:30. I'm Amber Smith.
And I'm Lachlan McLean. Let's take a look now at your Spectrum News in 90. Democratic Governor Andy Beshear wins a second term as state governor, getting over 52% of the vote. The Associated Press called the race for Beshear shortly after 9 Eastern. The results are unofficial until certified by the state's elections board.
The city of Louisville broke ground on a nearly $3 million project to revitalize Elliott Park in the Russell neighborhood. The project will build a new playground, picnic areas, and field house. It's expected to be finished in the next year.
And now through Friday, Louisville Metro Animal Services collecting food donations for dogs in the shelter. Dog-safe food will be collected at their location off Newburgh Road. You can visit Friends of Metro Animal Services website for more.
A near record or record warm day coming up here on Wednesday as highs will soar into the upper 70s and lower 80s with a lot of sunshine out there, especially during the afternoon hours. Winds will be a bit gusty as well, though, so remember that. Forecast Wednesday night into early Thursday. A front rolls in from the northwest. That'll bring a small chance for a shower to the area, but also some cooler air behind that front. Thursday will be nowhere near as warm as what it was on Wednesday. High temperatures only hitting the 60s for most areas. That's your news in 90.
Eventful election night here in the Commonwealth.
And when it was all said and done, a bittersweet night for Republicans. They won all the down-ballot races, but not the big-ticket race, the governor's mansion. Let's take a look at the results of the biggest race of the night, the governor's race. Incumbent Democrat Andy Beshear will hold on to that office for 4 more years. Of the state's 7 largest counties, Beshear won 6 of them with dominant margins in Jefferson and Fayette County. And he moves on to victory. Here's what he had to say after the win.
This election shows who we are as Kentuckians. We are a proud people who take care of each other. We believe in the golden rule that says we love our neighbor as ourselves, and the parable of the Good Samaritan that says we are all each other's neighbors, no exceptions. Our neighbors aren't just Democrats. They're not just Republicans. They're not just independents. Every single person is a child of God, and they are all our neighbor. We get through the hard times, and we get through them together. We get to the good times, and we get to them together. And wow, are we getting to them.
And in that governor's race, Andy Beshear defeated challenger Republican Attorney General Daniel Cameron. Cameron took the stage shortly before Beshear did to give a concession speech. Here's part of what he had to say.
Thank you so much for your willingness and commit to this campaign and this effort. An effort that was ultimately about our kids and our grandkids. Again, this was about future generations. And as I called the governor to congratulate him, I know from his perspective and from all of our perspectives that we all want the same thing for our future generations. We want a better Commonwealth, one in which it can ultimately be a shining city on a hill, a model and example for the rest of the nation to follow. And so as I did with Governor Beshear, I want all of us to think about what these next few decades will look like.
And we are bringing in our political anchor and reporter, Erin Kelly. She covers politics all year for us. And Erin, what do you think was the big decision factor in the governor's race tonight? What made so many people that voted Republican down ballot vote for a Democratic governor for a second term?
Well, I think it's hard to point to one thing. Certainly people are going to be arguing over the next few weeks and months and maybe even years as they're doing some analysis of what happened tonight. But I think just hearing from one Republican in the Kentucky House that abortion may have been, the key issue here. We know that Kentucky hasn't had abortion access since 2022, since the reversal of Roe v. Wade. That was something that, Governor Beshear put in one of the ads in support of Governor Beshear, brought in a woman who was a victim of rape and talked about, the fact that Kentucky's abortion ban doesn't have exceptions for rape or incest. When asked about it in our debate back in March, Attorney General Cameron said that he would be supportive of the law as supportive of our current Kentucky abortion ban, but then later said that if the legislature were to bring him a bill with exceptions, that he would sign it. There was a bill that was filed earlier this year that added those exceptions. It did not go anywhere. So, and just based on a response immediately coming out from, people from organizations like Planned Parenthood immediately after, they're seeing that abortion really was maybe a mobilizing issue. But you could look at a lot of different things. You could look at just the familiarity with this person that was in your, in your homes throughout the pandemic.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, there's never one issue, Aaron. Like 2019, people like to say it was teachers that got Beshear. It was never one thing, but that was an important thing. And I think you're right, maybe, in settling on abortion as an issue that maybe really galvanized some independent voters, moderate voters. We will see again with post-race. And I think the power of the incumbency, people saw Andy Beshear for 4 years, and they felt like they knew him.
Right. And that was something we heard from just a Democratic leader today, saying that people felt like they knew him, that they felt like he was family, that there was this, that the COVID-19 pandemic was a scary time for Kentucky. And, he was someone that was saying, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this together. And also devastating tornadoes and the flooding in eastern Kentucky as well. But it just depends on who you talk to. I mean, in the next couple of days, what went wrong for Cameron went well for Beshear.
And we also have our Mario Anderson on the set with us now. And Mario, this is also something you've been covering very closely on In Focus Kentucky as well as on your morning news. And what do you think was the big decision maker tonight that motivated voters for Beshear?
Well, as Aaron said, there wasn't just one. There's multiple factors that weighed into this particular race. But the main thing, the Governor Beshear said it during the course of the campaign, but then leaders in the Democratic House leadership there sharing statements that you don't fire a coach when the team is winning. And his victory tonight is a proof that a bipartisan majority of Kentucky voters agree. So that's something that Beshear has said since he launched the campaign. But then already the Beshear and Coleman ticket campaign, they're planning on starting tomorrow with laying out their vision and hosting an event at the state capitol with the media to display and talk about their thoughts or their second administration now in Frankfort the next 4 years. So not one factor, many factors, but ultimately the vote margin was considerably major difference compared to 2019.
And certainly, Andy Beshear is going to become a national political figure as a Democrat winning in a heavily Republican state. I'm not sure that there are national lessons that can be taken from this because Kentucky's a unique state and it's a unique situation. But watching his profile rise is going to be one of the things we'll be doing over the coming years.
Yeah, and I'll even say, too, that Beshear, now that he's in this seat for the next 4 years, he has no strings attached. He can be able to lean more into the Democratic Party, but also appear more regularly if he wants with Joe Biden, the president, if he wants, because he's not attached. He's not got a re-election he's going against this cycle. So we shall see what Andy Beshear does next.
It will be interesting to see what the next 4 years hold, and we'll continue all of our coverage. And you can always find all of the latest news on our website, SpectrumNews1.com, if you want to just take a look at how those vote totals turned out. We also have all of that information available on our Spectrum News app. We'll be back with more Kentucky news and weather after this.
Where's your emergency?
Everyone's on their way. What happened? She's dead. Yes, please get my mom and dad. Oh my God.
Well. I see we meet again, Mess. Your tricks might intimidate a lesser every Daisier cleaner. But if you think this lime deposit here has us running for the hills, think again, sport. Lime removal's our middle name. Literally, the L stands for lime. Add calcium and rust to the mix, and you get the whole stain-squashing picture. You are the gunk we were born to ungunkify. CLR brands. Been there. Outdone that.
If you smoked, get scanned. Talk to your doctor or learn more at savedbythescan.org.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
You gotta stop with that depression stuff. That's what white people think. You alright?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
You told me not to talk to strangers. You told me not to cross the street without looking both ways.
You told me not to touch the stove.
You told me not to do drugs.
You told me not to drink and drive.
You gave me so many messages about how to stay safe. Why didn't you keep me safe by properly storing your gun?
One.
That November chill has been missing for several days now across the Ohio Valley. We had another high temperature in the mid-70s on Tuesday, very similar to what we saw on Monday as well. And we weren't too cool over the weekend, too. We had highs in the middle to upper 60s. It's been very mild lately, and that pattern is going to last with us here as we go into our Wednesday. In fact, probably warmer here on Wednesday than what it was Monday or Tuesday. So warm, in fact, we could be talking about a new record high. The record for the day is 77. The forecast high is 80 degrees. So I think we're pretty good chances here of breaking that record coming up on Wednesday for the daily record high. Mostly cloudy skies here overnight, very mild. In fact, our low temperatures are actually closer to our average highs for this time of the year. Right now we're calling for a low in the middle to upper 50s. Forecast for the bus stop coming up on Wednesday as many of the kids may be going back to school after having the day off on Election Day on Tuesday. Upper 50s, 6 o'clock. We're in the mid 60s by 9 o'clock. And we'll have a south-southeast breeze at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Now, changes do come our way here toward the end of the week. Cold front swings in, bringing in some cooler air for the end of the week, but also some rain chances with a better chance for rain coming our way here Thursday night, and maybe some of those showers linger into Friday as well, but it will be a big change coming up here this weekend compared to how warm it's been over the last several days. In fact, we'll take a longer look at what's ahead for the weekend in your 7-day forecast and talk more about those rain chances coming up in your next Weather on the Ones.
1 month after Hamas attacked Israel, triggering a deadly Middle East war, family members of hostages taken by Hamas join House Republican leaders on Capitol Hill pleading for U.S. aid to help Israel.
This as Israel's prime minister rules out a ceasefire unless Hamas releases the 240 people it is holding captive. Cassie Simeon of our Washington bureau has the latest.
For a month now, families of hostages taken by Hamas in the early hours of its war with Israel have waited for news. News that has not yet come.
It's been 30 days. Every day is like eternity to me, and I can't wait any longer because I know that he was shot. I don't know anything.
Doris Lieber's son Guy was attending a music festival in Israel when he was shot and taken hostage by Hamas terrorists on October 7th. Lieber and members of other hostage families joined with House Republican leaders Tuesday in calling for new U.S. assistance for Israel.
We need help now. We don't know what is their condition. This is a call for action.
Last week, all but 2 House Republicans, plus 12 Democrats, voted to provide $14.3 billion in aid. But Democratic and Republican leaders in the Senate are pushing for a bigger package that includes aid for Ukraine and Taiwan and money for border security.
We passed a bipartisan Israel support measure, which is exactly at the level that was requested. And unfortunately, some of our Senate Democrat friends have taken issue with that. What our point has been and what we are requesting, urging the White House and the Senate Democrats to do is to complete that package and get it over the line.
Democrats are blasting House Republicans for including $14 billion in cuts to the Internal Revenue Service for their bill. They say cutting the money would deny the IRS the ability to step up audits of wealthy tax cheats, costing the government money.
This is the height of hypocrisy from the Republican conference. They voted for a package that left out humanitarian aid just last week. By the way, an extremely partisan plan that is not going to become law, that blows up our deficit, and ignores the humanitarian crisis that they acknowledge.
Israel reported that its forces have now encircled Gaza City in the northern Gaza Strip and dismantled some of Hamas's tunnels as fierce fighting continues. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told ABC News that Israel will take over security responsibility in Gaza indefinitely after its war with Hamas. But he did not elaborate. In that interview, Netanyahu said he would support little pauses in the fighting to allow for the delivery of aid to Gaza or the release of some hostages, but he ruled out any general ceasefire without the release of all of the hostages. In Washington, Cassie Simeon, Spectrum News.
Cassie, thank you. And for the latest on the war, follow along with our running live blog on our website, SpectrumNews1.com. We'll have more on the increased fighting, the calls for a ceasefire, and the political ramifications as Israel continues to bombard the region. You can find that online and on our free Spectrum News mobile app. Download that from the App Store and Google Play. Still to come here on Spectrum News 1, a Kentucky group helping grieving families after the loss of a child. We'll see why their work means so much to those struggling. And coming up tomorrow morning.
Hi, I'm Kayla Moody.
And I am Mario Anderson, and here's what's coming up Wednesday on your morning news. Voters are having their voices heard in Kentucky's general election. We'll have the results.
Plus, hear from the candidates after those results come in.
I'm still tracking well above average temperatures for your Wednesday, even close to some records for a couple of locations. Changes, though, by the end of the work week. I'll be timing out some of the wet weather rolling in.
And whether it's the milder weather or Halloween fun, we'll show you what has people smiling this week all across Kentucky. Be sure to join us Wednesday for your morning news.
And we are live starting at 5 a.m. Eastern, 4 Central. We'll see you then.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished, made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
When my doctor gave me Breztri for my COPD, things changed for me. Breztri gave me better breathing, symptom improvement, and reduced flare-ups.
Breztri won't replace a rescue inhaler for sudden breathing problems. It is not for asthma. Tell your doctor if you have a heart condition or high blood pressure before taking it. Don't take Breztri more than prescribed. Breztri may increase your risk of thrush, pneumonia, and osteoporosis. Call your doctor if worsened breathing, chest pain, mouth or tongue swelling, problems urinating, vision changes, or eye pain occur.
Ask your doctor about Breztri.
My advice to all the fathers out there, they grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
For moderate to severe Crohn's disease, Skyrizi is the first IL-23 inhibitor that can deliver remission and visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine, or plan to. Liver problems may occur in Crohn's disease.
Control of Crohn's means everything to me. Ask your gastroenterologist about Skyrizi.
Control is everything to me.
Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
Individuals in every community are living in recovery from mental and substance use disorders. Begin your recovery journey. Join the Voices for Recovery. Strengthen families and communities.
For confidential information on mental and substance use disorders, call 1-800-662-HELP. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
So inspired to work for Spectrum News 1, covering the Commonwealth as someone who understands the rhythms of the state. I'm Lachlan McLean, anchor Spectrum News 1.
A pretty nice start to the work week out there, including some very mild temperatures. And we're going to be even warmer coming up here on Wednesday. And one of the reasons for the warm temperatures coming up here on Wednesday will be some gusty south-southwest winds, which will drive those temperatures up in the afternoon. Pretty quiet going into our Wednesday night and Thursday, but later Thursday night, we'll see a better chance for some rain across the area. I think especially the farther south you go, that rain chance increases. Then temperatures really start to fall by the Friday and especially going into the upcoming weekend as well. In fact, your temperature trend shows that dip. Thursday, cooler, but much chillier here by Friday into the weekend. Just a little bit below average, though. Nothing terribly cold, but it'll be a big change of pace compared to the warm temperatures we've been enjoying here lately. Forecast overnight, though, very mild temperatures, only falling back into the 50s for overnight lows. That'll be between 15 and 20 degrees above average for this time of the year. So it's going to feel a little bit more like our average highs for this time of the year instead of our low temperatures. Into our Wednesday, I think we'll start off with quite a bit of cloud cover, but as we go through the day, as the front lifts north, lots of sunshine, then the winds start getting gusty out of the south-southwest, and temperatures are going to soar tremendously throughout the day. Here's your forecast planner. Almost 70 by 10 o'clock, easily the 70s in the afternoon, with some spots getting into the 80s. Here's your highs. 80 Lexington, same thing for Mount Vernon. 81 Somerset, 81 Jackson, 79 in Moorhead, and there's some possibility we could be even warmer than that. When we have strong southwest winds this time of the year and sunshine, it can really drive those temperatures up quite a bit. And those winds could be gusting, I think, over 30 miles per hour at times during the afternoon, so might provide a little bit of difficulty, high-profile vehicle driving, and certainly blowing those leaves around as well, but that's about it. As far as our next rain chance goes, could see a few showers Thursday as the front works through. I think a better chance Thursday night as a disturbance rides up along that front, but I think the better rain chances will be the farther south you go. So not everyone's going to see a lot of rain, but there will be some pretty wet conditions, I believe, Thursday night into very early Friday morning. And again, mainly the farther south you go. So here's your 7-day forecast. 67 on Thursday, a few very early morning showers as the front passes by, then the disturbance rides up along that front Thursday night. A few showers possible early Friday, but look at the temperatures tumbling. Highs only in the 50s coming up here on Veterans Day on Saturday and Sunday. A dry weekend ahead, though, and then temperatures a little bit up for Monday and Tuesday. High 57 Monday, 60 on Tuesday.
The pain of losing a baby can be devastating, but one international nonprofit based in Kentucky is trying to help those who are grieving.
Spectrum News 1's Aaron Dickens has the story.
Jessica Heffinger knows the pain of losing a child. She went into labor over 10 years ago and gave birth to her stillborn daughter, Riley. And although the pain is still there, she has found a blessing from this loss.
Our stillbirth 13 years ago in 2010 is now bringing comfort to over 700 families across the world to date.
Heffinger helped create a nonprofit called Glory Baby Ministry and now specializes in making burial gowns or memorial packages for parents who are grieving from a miscarriage, stillbirth, or an early infant loss, giving them memorials such as a baby-sized bracelet with a lamb charm.
We have a little lamb charm on all of our bracelets as well as our burial gowns. And that represents that the baby is safe in the shepherd's arms.
The package also includes prayer hearts, ornaments, mini cribs, and even sometimes a mini formal burial outfit.
These babies that are wearing these have passed away, and they're not going to be able to go to their wedding or prom.
But Glory Baby Ministry doesn't use any cloth to make the burial gowns. They use cloth from wedding dresses and formal wear to bring comfort to the grieving families.
Jessica then ships it anywhere in the nation, or sometimes somewhere outside the country.
After having a 21-week stillbirth and 2 early miscarriages, is a blessing to us to be able to be a blessing to others.
The box that it's put into has a quote from Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 6, which is a quote that helped Jessica through her painful times.
And that day that was sent to me took me out of the darkness, and I said, my pain, what I'm going through, there's a bigger purpose for this.
As she says in her nonprofit motto, turning pain into purpose. In Bowling Green, Aaron Dickens, Spectrum News.
So the families.
Aaron, thank you for that compelling story. Glory Baby Ministries takes volunteers to make the crafts. If you'd like to help, or if you have a wedding dress or formal wear you could donate, you can contact Jessica at the number on your screen.
It was a beautiful election day across the Commonwealth, especially warm considering we're already in November. Whether this warm trend continues into Wednesday, coming up in your weather on the ones.
This check of the Kentucky Lottery numbers is brought to you by Hughes & Coleman Injury Lawyers. We will fight for the money you deserve. presented by Western Kentucky University.
When I was 10, my mom got deported. We had a difficult time, and I feel that's why I didn't get to finish school. My husband is really supportive in a way that he pushed me to go back to school.
She wants to have a career so her kids can look up to her.
They both keep me motivated to go to school, and they see that if I do it, like, they can do it too, you know? I feel that everything's possible.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
All right, fellas. 1, 2, 3, hit it.
When your internet needs a fast connection and your Wi-Fi needs secure protection, you need more with talk, text, and data. Unlimited.
Switch to Spectrum One now and get the perfect trio of connectivity.
Spectrum One brings you seamless connection. Get Spectrum One. You won't be stressing with our fastest download speeds and fast Wi-Fi security with nationwide 5G. Come get just what you need with Spectrum One.
Hey, the song ain't done. Let me tell you a little bit about Spectrum One. Coming with the internet to surf and stream. Speed so fast, feeling like a dream. With advanced Wi-Fi to stay secure and unlimited mobile, that's for sure. With this trio right here, you'll save a ton. Switch right now. Come join the one.
Spectrum One.
Visit spectrum.com/it's the one.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I was by artificial intelligence from faces of the 1 in 7 American children who struggle with hunger.
Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
It's 11 o'clock. This check of the time presented by Spectrum One.